joys of summer are back, and the first game of the spring comes your way immediately here on Sportsnet. It's the Blue Jays against the Pirates on a glorious and sunny day in Dunedin, Florida. Good to hear the voices of our broadcast team back at work. Let's take it upstairs to Buck Martinez and Pat Tabler. Gentlemen.
Jamie, the Blue Jays begin their 39th spring training here in Dunedin, Florida, and this past off-season was a busy one. There are 37 first-time Blue Jays in camp this spring, and there are a lot of guys you're going to see throughout the course of spring, but today we get to see two of the most important, Russell Martin and Josh Donaldson.
When you talk about those two players, Russell Martin and Josh Donaldson, the word that comes to mind, I think, is winner. Russell Martin has been in the big leagues for 9 seasons. 7 times his teams have played in the postseason. He's going to be good for the pitching staff. I think the pitchers are going to love to throw to him. He's confident. He's a leader. He was brought in to help win now. Also, Josh Donaldson was brought in to win now, and he, too, is a winner. He's played 4 years in the big leagues. 3 times he's played into the postseason. One of the highest-rated third basemen in all of baseball, 29 home runs. I'm going to see that number go up this year playing at Rogers Center, along with the Blue Jays' win total.
Martin and Donaldson are going to play 5 innings this afternoon. Aaron Sanchez gets the start. He's competing for that spot in the rotation. He pitched well last year out of the bullpen. You'll also see Marco Estrada. He, too, competing for a spot in the rotation. Maybe the most important guy in the bullpen, Steve Delabar, trying to recapture his form from 2013. Stay tuned later on. You're going to see Miguel Castro. Jamie?
All right, Buck and Pat, thank you so much. Marcus Stroman is the man to start the game tomorrow when they travel to face the Pirates once again in Bradenton, Florida. Aaron Sanchez on the hill today, and a lot of people get a little upset sometimes with the early results of spring training. Someone's in a slump, team's not winning games. When should they really be concerned with what they're seeing out here?
Usually when the hitters get to about that 25 to 30 at-bat range, you can really gauge on how they're swinging the bat. Takes a little time to get their timing down, especially with the breaking ball. The pitchers are way ahead of the hitters at this point. When a pitcher gets to about that third start or that third appearance, that's when you can usually tell how they're feeling, because early on they're just working on fastball command, working on that changeup. A lot of starting pitchers will go out in that first start and use 2 pitches. They won't even use their whole repertoire until the second or third start.
This seems to be an improved club from last year's team, the one that won 83 games, and the hope is there yet again that perhaps they can contend in the East and make a playoff appearance for the first time since 93. We'll see. The season is just beginning. There's a lot to do this month, a lot of decisions to be made, and we'll be with you throughout the month. In fact, this is the first of 10 games you'll see here on Sportsnet, and it will end with both exhibition games played against the Reds in Montreal, no doubt against sold-out crowds. Thanks for joining us for Blue Jays Central. Buck and Pat have it the rest of the way. Enjoy.
Welcome back to Florida. Beautiful Dunedin, Florida. The weather is spectacular today, and it's not been that great recently. But, boy, the baseball season's starting. The sun comes out. It's 24 degrees here in Dunedin and a minus 5 degrees Celsius in Toronto. So, obviously, jump on a plane, come on down to Florida and join us because it's going to be a great spring. And when you look at this ball club, John Gibbons is really excited about the changes in the ball club. Of course, the backbone is Jose Bautista, as always, and Jose is a guy that loves what they have done with this ball club. They brought back one of his college teammates in Russell Martin. And, Pat, I think it's going to be an interesting spring.
Yeah, I think it really is. There's a lot of depth. Alex Anthopoulos has brought a lot of players in here. There's a lot of competition, and when you have competition, you've got jobs at stake.
Take a look at the lineup for Clint Hurdle's Pittsburgh Pirates. They lost last year in the National League Wild Card Series to the San Francisco Giants. Former Tampa Bay Ray Sean Rodriguez in the 2 spot. Gregory Polanco, keep your eye on him. He's one of the rising stars in the National League. Starting Marte, he hit a walk-off home run against the Blue Jays last season in Pittsburgh. Now it's time to take a look at the starting pitchers. They're brought to you by Scott's Weed Be Gone. This spring, knock weeds out of your park with Scott's Weed Be Gone. Kills weeds, not lawns.
You know, we talked about the Blue Jays having a lot of questions this spring. Well, here is the big one. Right out of the chute, Aaron Sanchez is going to get the first start of the spring season right here. Sanchez, is he going to be a starter or is he going to go into the bullpen? There are his numbers last year in 24 games. And check out that batting average again. Right-handers hit 116, lefties 150 for a 128 average. He was also 3 for 3 in save opportunities.
Sanchez, former #1 pick. Take a look at the defense behind Sanchez. This could be the opening day lineup. Kevin Pillar in left, the rookie Dalton Pompey in center, Jose Bautista stationed in right field. Josh Donaldson, he's going to do the work at third base this year. Reyes and Esteuris up the middle. Esteuris coming back from knee surgery. Justin Smoke, a switch-hitting first baseman acquired from Seattle. And, of course, the Canadian Russell Martin behind the plate. Boy, he brings a presence to this ball club. That's legitimate.
It certainly does. He's a Gold Glove winner in 2007. He gets a chance to catch all these young arms that the Blue Jays have. And we talked about Sanchez, and the eyes are going to be on him this afternoon. I think the eyes are going to be on Russell Martin and the leadership that he brings to this ball club and what he is going to do for this young pitcher, Aaron Sanchez.
Obviously, when you have talents like Sanchez, Stroman, and Hutchison in your rotation, you want to have a guy with experience behind the plate, and Russell Martin certainly has that, and nobody knows it better than the Pittsburgh Pirates and Clint Hurdle, their manager. Martin played the last 2 seasons with the Pirates. Leading things off, the center fielder, Jeff Decker. He takes the first hack and fouls it out of play.
Well, that's something that you will see from Aaron Sanchez. He will pound that strike zone with the fastball. You got the great moving, sinking fastball. We might see him break out that breaking ball a little bit more this afternoon than what we saw last year.
There's a fastball in there. It's 0-2. Well, Sanchez worked exclusively out of the bullpen last year. Here's the 0-2. Liner right back to Sanchez, just like that. 1 up, 1 down.
Well, if he wasn't awake, he he doesn't mess around. He goes right after him with the baseball, like I said. And I'll tell you, he's a good athlete. That mound, he feels. Watch this. Back at him. He's in perfect position to throw the glove up there and make the catch.
Had it all the way. Lands square to the plate. Is able to get that glove up. 1 down. Now former Ray Sean Rodriguez takes the strike. Rodriguez came over to the Pirates. He's a super utility man. A little chopper out in front of home plate. Russell Martin calls for it and makes a play, but pulls Smoke off the bag. Oh, they said he was on the bag. First base umpire rings him up. Mark Carlson said that Smoke had contact, and that's an aspect of Smoke's play that you're going to see throughout the spring. He is a terrific first baseman.
An excellent fielder with soft hands and a big target. He's 6'4". Testing out the battery already. First Sanchez and now Russell Martin with the throw. You can see the length over at first base that Justin Smoke has. Getting the out over at first base. Saving an error to Russell Martin. Blue Jays, I think, defensively have made themselves a better club.
No question about it. Russell Martin is a leader of the pitching staff, but he's also a fine defender. Gregory Polanco, the 23-year-old, steps in, and there's another strike from Sanchez. Polanco, one of the most exciting young players in all of baseball. A year ago with the Buccos, he hit 7 home runs and drove in 33. Big cut, and again, Sanchez is ahead 0-2.
All of that damage that you were talking about by Polanco in 277 at-bats. He was voted the best hitter, best athlete, best defensive player in the Pirates system last season. Clint Hurdle's expecting big things from this youngster.
Didn't make his debut until the 10th of June. Breaking ball just off the corner. Russell Martin thought that may have been a strike. He turned to discuss it with James Hoy, the home plate umpire.
I think Aaron Sanchez did also. You see him walk off the mound there and grab the rosin and fire it back down in the dirt.
Well, right back to the breaking ball, and that's going to drop in there for a base hit. Pilar will play it back into the infield. A 2-strike base hit for Gregory Polanco. Comes with 2 outs.
I like the idea that he went right back to the breaking ball. That's a pitch I think is going to be important for him, especially if he is in the starting rotation for the Blue Jays. He's going to have to master that, and he's got a good one.
Working out of the bullpen, he didn't have the opportunity to work in between starts like he did in the minor leagues to refine that curveball, so he just kind of stayed away from it. Starling Marte, the DH this afternoon. Marte, normally the left fielder, and this Pirate outfield might be the best in baseball.
They are athletic. That's the first thing you think of when you think about Marte, Polanco, and then one of the best players at all of baseball, Andrew McCutchen. Unfortunately, he is not here this afternoon. They can hit, they can run, they can play all phases of the game.
Great defenders and very athletic. Last year, Starling Marte robbed a home run away from Juan Francisco at PNC Park, and would later on in that series hit a walk-off home run, part of a 4-hit game against the Blue Jays. 2-0. He got jammed. Donaldson bobbles it, stays with it, and he's not going to have a play. Josh Donaldson, to tell you, he should have made that play. That should go as an error. He cut in front of the shortstop Reyes, and he had a legitimate shot to throw out Marte.
Fine fielding third baseman. This one just comes up on him, hits him on the heel of the glove right there, that last hop. I don't know if he took his eye off of it or it bounced up just a little bit, but that's a tricky hop in. You're right. He normally makes that play. He makes it look easy. He turned a double play here yesterday in the inter-squad game. Got to the ball, got rid of it quickly. It was some kind of pretty. He's got great hands. 2 on, 2 outs.
Pedro Alvarez, the big slugger, now the first baseman for the Pirates, formerly the third baseman, but the Pittsburgh Pirates organization feeling that maybe if they put Alvarez over at first, he'll cut down on his errors and the offense might bounce back a bit.
No question that he had the throwing problem last year.
Drives this one high and deep to left. Pilar on the track. This ball is gone. A 2-out, 3-run home run for Pedro Alvarez. And there's where that defense comes into play. That extra out on the Donaldson error leads to a 3-run home run for the Pirates.
You know, this whole thing started with that 2-strike curveball that Aaron Sanchez thought he had to strike out Polanco. He then gave up a base hit, the error, and now the home run. This is why Alvarez, they love him. He's got power to all fields. He stays back on that fastball and just drives it over the wall in left field.
So now the shortstop, Jung Ho Gung, signed as a free agent from the Korean baseball organization, the professional league in Korea. There's a little tapper up the third baseline. That'll trickle into foul ground.
Boy, that last out sometimes just becomes very elusive, especially when you feel like you've made the pitch and you're going to get out of the inning. 1, 2, 3. Aaron was cruising right along. He got 2 quick strikes on Polanco, threw a curveball, thought it was an out. For the third out, then the error by Donaldson, the 3-run home run. And I love what we see out on the mound right now. You see Russell Martin, and that's one of the things that Clint Hurdle was telling us today, Buck, before the game, that he knows when to go out to that mound and talk to that pitcher in certain situations, and this is definitely one right here. Seems like the inning has slipped away from him after that pitch was not called a strike.
You were right about the mindset. He threw that curveball, thought he had Polanco struck out, and then ends up giving up a 3-run homer. Now he tried to throw that curveball too hard. Sanchez just gets the nod for the first start here in spring. Don't put anything more into it than a timing issue. There's a ground ball. Reyes gobbles it up, and the inning is over. But the Pirates score 3 runs on 2 hits in the air, led to the 3-run home run by Alvarez. When we come back, Jose Reyes will lead things off. 3-0 Pittsburgh.
Thank you, Bill. And thank you, ladies.
Lineup, and like we mentioned earlier, this could be very well the opening day lineup. Reyes, Martin, Bautista, then Encarnacion the DH. Donaldson in the 5th spot. He's an RBI guy. Switch hitter Smoke at first base. Astros, he too a switch hitter. Pilar and Dalton round out the lineup, and the Blue Jays are set to face Casey Sadler.
24 years old, Casey Sadler. This was his numbers last year. He was a 25th round draft pick in 2010 out of Western Oklahoma State Junior College. Got his first taste of the big leagues last season when he pitched in those 6 games. In fact, he made his major league debut for the Pittsburgh Pirates against the Blue Jays on May the 2nd. If you remember that, he pitched 2 scoreless innings out of the bullpen.
Defensively for the Pirates behind Sadler, it's Jose Tabata, Jeff Decker in center, and Gregory Polanco in right field. Romero, Gong, Rodriguez, and Alvarez from 3rd to 1st. And Tony Sanchez behind the plate, former #1 pick of the Pirates, is doing the catching today.
Jung Ho Gung is playing shortstop, and that's a name that everybody's been talking about in the Pittsburgh camp so far. Shortstop came over from Korea. Big guy, big power, big home run power last year. He's brought over here to play. The Pirates think that there's more inside him. They think he could be a special player.
They thought initially he might be a good backup player, but after seeing him firsthand, they think he's got a chance to possibly break into the everyday lineup. Jose Reyes, the switch hitter, takes a strike from Sadler. Reyes, 287 a year ago. 33 doubles, 4 triples, 9 homers, and 51 RBIs. He also chipped in with 30 stolen bases. There's a fly ball to center. Decker is there, and Reyes is retired. So Russell Martin will have his first at bat in a Blue Jays uniform. Born in East York, grew up in Montreal. Last 2 years he spent with the Pirates, and he's excited about being here with the Blue Jays.
Getting a chance to catch this staff, getting a chance to win also. That's what he is. We talked about that in the opening. He spent 9 years in the big leagues. 7 times already he has played in the postseason. He is a winner, and he's going to try and bring that winning mix over here to the Blue Jays.
Originally a 17th round pick of the Dodgers back in 2002. Goes after the first pitch, gets jammed. Little roller to Gong at short, and Russell Martin's retired on 1 pitch. And no matter how many new people you bring into an organization, Jose Bautista is still the man. He had a tremendous year a year ago. 35 homers, 103 driven in. Had an on-base percentage over 400. And to me, it was as good a season offensively as we have seen from Bautista.
Consistency. That's what we saw from Jose last year. From the first pitch of the season to the last pitch, he was more consistent than we have ever seen him in the past. Every at-bat he took seriously. He didn't give away any at-bats last year. And he took what the pitchers gave him. There were times where they're in the shift like they are now, and he would take that and he'd shoot a couple of balls to right field. If the pitchers were pitching around him and he didn't have his buddy Edwin Encarnacion hitting behind him, he understood that they were pitching around him. He'd take his share of walks.
Well, there's the shift as Rodriguez was positioned behind second. Bautista's retired on the ground ball. Blue Jays go quietly in there. Half of the first. 3 up, 3 down. Aaron Sanchez gets the nod to make the start in the first spring training game. And with more on Sanchez, here's our Barry Davis.
Buck, Sanchez made his Major League debut last July against the Boston Red Sox. He knew the day that he was going to be coming in after R.A. Dickey. What he didn't know was the situation. As it turns out, he entered the game with a 1-run lead, and he had to face none other than Dustin Pedroia, David Ortiz, and Mike Napoli. He ended up getting him 1, 2, 3. He said he didn't even know who he was going to face, but it all worked out well for him, and that was the beginning of what we see now in Aaron Sanchez. Buck?
Thank you, Barry. That certainly was a memorable debut for Aaron Sanchez, and he continued to throw the ball well. Rounding out that season, misses with the first pitch to Jose Tabata. Tabata, the left fielder, this afternoon. He is basically their fourth outfielder. He chops it foul. One thing you're going to see with Sanchez, Pat, we saw it last year in the big leagues, is a lot of those choppers, a lot of those foul balls as they get the top half of that sinking fastball.
And the left side of the infield is going to have to be alert when those right-handers are batting. You're right. He's got tremendous movement on that fastball. Goes straight down. See a lot of balls on the ground.
Meiser gets his first opportunity as spring and handles it cleanly. Tabata is retired, 4-3.
Well, another question mark on this Blue Jays team is the second baseman. Who's going to play second base? First out of the box this afternoon is Meiser. He missed pretty much all of last season with that knee injury, the freak injury that happened in Baltimore when he tripped down the steps and tore his ACL. No problems there. And you and I were both marveling at how well he looks physically. Big, strong.
Yep, he got hurt early in April in Baltimore, and he played just 10 games last year. Was off to a good start and then suffered that knee injury. Davison Romero takes a strike on that curveball. Romero playing third base this afternoon. Josh Harrison will be the third baseman during the regular season for the Pirates, and Harrison was quite a story last year. Started out as an extra player and worked his way into the lineup, made the All-Star team.
Yeah, made it all the way to the All-Star game, hit over 300 last year for him, and he's going to be their everyday third baseman. This is a good team, the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Clint Hurdle's in his 5th year as the manager. He has taken the Pirates to the postseason the last 2 years after 20 consecutive seasons of under 500 baseball. Hurdle managed 8 years with the Rockies. Had that great season in 2007 when he met up with the Red Sox in the World Series.
And he knows the expectations, and he's ready to defend that, get into the postseason once again.
He doesn't shy away from any controversy, and he'll be up front with you. He talks honestly about what they have to do and come out and play a little bit better. Anxious to win their first division title in a bunch of years. 2 balls and 2 strikes, 1 down. We're in the top half of the second inning. Pittsburgh scored 3 in their half of the first on a 3-run opposite field home run off the bat of Pedro Alvarez. Another chopper foul. Sanchez gave up just 1 home run last year. That came at Rogers Center last August 5th. Chris Davis, the big first baseman of the Orioles, hit a 97-mile-an-hour fastball to the seats. That was the only home run he allowed in the big leagues last year.
With the kind of movement that he gets on that fastball, just diving down, it's tough to square it up, tough to get it up in the air. So you got to be on your toes. Here's another thing that Russell Martin's going to bring to the equation right here. Looked like a changeup that got away from Sanchez. Get that body in front of that ball.
Well, you got to start blocking those balls early in spring so you get in the good habit of moving over. Fastball misses upstairs, and Romero takes a walk. That was not an issue for Sanchez last year. He pitched in 33 innings in the big leagues, allowed just 9 walks, and struck out 27. Pete Walker, the pitching coach, out to have a chat with Sanchez. Boy, Pat, you made a great point about that one curveball that he threw to Gregory Polanco with 2 strikes. Looked like he was out of the inning, and then he just kind of lost that momentum he had started the ballgame.
Yeah, I don't know if he lost his concentration or what, but you could see that. You saw Russell Martin talk to the umpire, and you also watched the body language of young Aaron Sanchez, how he backed off the mound just a little bit, picked up the rosin bag, fired it back down. It was almost like he had to start all over again. Did not throw a good curveball the second time to Polanco, and he got the base hit. Then the error by Donaldson, he would have been out of the inning. And he had to face the home run hitter, so he got to find his way through the second inning.
Runner at first base. Here's Tony Sanchez, the catcher. Ground ball, base hit to the right side. Romero looking at his third base coach. He'll check there as Bautista. Everybody knows his reputation with that strong arm. Sanchez gets an opposite field single.
And I imagine we are getting very close to the pitch limit for Aaron.
Well, we want to welcome you, those of watching on MLB Network. It's Buck Martinez, Pat Tabler here in Dunedin, Florida. The Pirates and the Blue Jays playing their first spring training game.
You see Gibby checking out that lineup card. Sanchez was scheduled to go 2 if it was an easy 2. He has thrown plenty of pitches now in an inning in a third.
Back to the top of the order, center fielder Jeff Decker takes one outside. We'd also like to welcome in those of you watching on Armed Forces Network around the world. Welcome to Florida and a great afternoon. It's 24 degrees Celsius here in Dunedin. 1 out. Fouled straight back. You know, Pat, with these young pitchers, and of course you have Stroman, Hutchison, Sanchez. You can put them all in that and include Daniel Norris, who we'll see tomorrow down in Bradenton. The stuff is great. Now the question is, how will they handle the ups and downs, the adversity, the called strike that didn't go your way?
The mental part of pitching. And for some of them, how about the second time through the league? Drew Hutchison seemed to handle that as he got a little bit stronger as the season went along last year. This will be the second time through for young Marcus Stroman. The adjustments that the hitters will be making to them, will they be able to make the adjustments to them?
Stroman made 20 starts last year, appeared in 26 games overall, but this year they're counting on him for 32, 33 starts. And another thing you know as a hitter, Pat, that the hitters are going to pay a little more attention in their preparation for Marcus Stroman this year.
They certainly will. They'll be watching some film, and they'll have a little history with him now.
Here's the 2-2 pitch upstairs. It's a full count. So Romero's at second. He walked, and Sanchez singled to right, first and second. Pirates up by 3. Three-2 pitch, hammered toward the alley, and that's going to get down and go all the way to the wall. Romero is around third. He's going to score, being waved to Sanchez right behind him, and there'll be no throw. Jeff Decker with a 2-run double to the wall in center field has given the Pirates a 5-0 lead, and that's going to be it for Aaron Sanchez.
Well, if he led off the ball game with a line drive right back at Sanchez that he recorded the out, this time that sinker just did not do anything. That one just hung over the middle of the plate, and Decker with that short swing drives it between Pompey and Bautista. His afternoon is finished, and the Blue Jays are going to have to dig out of a deep hole.
When we come back, it'll be a new pitcher for the Blue Jays, and the Pirates have taken an early 5-0 lead.
Blue Jays Spring Training on Sportsnet. Brought to you by Scott's Coated Grass Seed. This spring, build up your outfield, even if you miss a day of watering, with Scott's Coated Grass Seed.
Welcome back to Dunedin. Corey Burns is the new pitcher. Burns is 27 years old, originally signed by the Cleveland Indians. Blue Jays picked him up on waivers off the Tampa Bay roster last September 28th.
Non-roster player by the Blue Jays, trying to get some work in here with Sanchez getting knocked out early. Burns gets the chance here. This is his 5th organization. As you see his numbers, spent between AA and AAA last year. That was in the Tampa Bay organization.
Off-speed pitch is inside. It's ball and a strike to Sean Rodriguez. Rodriguez originally signed with the Angels. He was traded to Tampa Bay and really developed into one of the premier utility players in all of baseball. There's a throw to second, and Decker is back in safely.
Sean is a very valuable type of player for any organization that he plays for. He can play the infield, the outfield, come off the bench. I think you might see him do that a little bit more in the National League. And I'll tell you what, he is ready for that number one when he steps into that batter's box. That fastball, he's zeroed in on it.
There's a little tapper back to the mound as Decker goes back to second. Throw to first, and Rodriguez is retiring. That's his second out of the inning. Corey Burns has some time in the big leagues with the Padres. He pitched in 17 games, a career high in San Diego in 2012, all out of the bullpen. And then he got a cup of coffee with the Rangers in 2013, picked up his one and only major league win with Texas that season.
Sinker slider type of pitcher, doesn't overpower you. He's got to keep the ball down in the strike zone. That's a perfect example of the stuff that he has. Good sinker, that little comebacker right back to the mound.
Here's Gregory Polanco. He got everything going with that little flare base hit with 2 outs in the first inning. He took a close curveball for a ball, just missed the outside corner. Sanchez came back with a curveball next pitch, and he blooped it into shallow left center.
Didn't hit it very hard, but hit it perfectly. Right into the Bermuda Triangle out in left field in front of Kevin Pillar.
2 outs. Decker remains at second. 5-0 Pittsburgh. This is popped up. Looked like a changeup. Kevin Pillar coming in. Waits on it. And the inning is over. Pittsburgh adds a pair. They're taking a 5-0 lead. When we come back, Edwin Encarnacion, Josh Donaldson, and Justin Smoke for the Jays.
The 2015 ICC Cricket World Cup live and in HD. Contact your local service provider or visit getcricket.ca.
Number 10, Edwin Encarnacion.
Now, I could have played that game. I hit a lot of foul balls.
There's no foul lines.
No
there.
foul lines. It's a big circle, and I'd have been really good in that game.
Well, you don't have to run very far either.
No, that's another thing. Plays right up my alley. I should have played cricket. We move to the bottom of the second inning. Edwin Encarnacion coming off another outstanding season. 34 homers, 98 RBIs. And Pat, when Edwin went down, that kind of took the wind out of the Blue Jays' offensive sail.
Yeah, I thought so. When he went down, with AA out of the lineup, only 4 teams scored fewer runs than the Blue Jays in that time that he was out. He was out from July the 5th until August the 15th. So for about 6 weeks or so, he was out of the lineup. And at that time, the Blue Jays were 3rd in the American League in runs scored.
This is popped up left side of the infield over near the Pirates dugout. That's going to be out of play. Yeah, at the time, he injured himself running up the first baseline in Oakland, and he stumbled over the bag and got up, and he had to be helped off the field. And you could see it was going to be a significant injury. And you know, oftentimes we hear 15-day disabled list, but it's never 15 days.
It's 4 weeks or so to get the thing healed, and then you've got 2 or 3 more weeks to get back into baseball shape and get that batting eye going again. For Edwin, it was about 6 weeks. And again, at the time of his injury, the Blue Jays were 3rd in the American League in runs scored with 405 runs, and they were actually leading the American League in home runs. You take that big bat out of the lineup and your offense is going to suffer.
Well, and right then you mentioned it early on, the fact that you see Edwin jump back into the batter's box quickly, aware of the pace of the game rules that have been implemented. Drives this one down the left side. This ball is hooking and foul off the wall. But that last little sequence was interesting. He stepped out of the box and quickly jumped back in, looked at James Hoy and said, I didn't mean to do that. Guys, that's been a topic of conversation throughout the postseason, was the pace of the game rules that have been implemented. Batters are to keep a foot in the batter's box, and now he can leave because it's ball 4. So Josh Donaldson will come to the plate. Donaldson, like Russell Martin, one of the key additions to this ball club. He is a third baseman that plays every day. And one thing managers love to see is reliability and consistency, and that's what Donaldson brings.
I think he's missed something like 8 games or something like that over the last couple of seasons. Big power numbers. Look at those numbers: 29 home runs and 98 driven in. Playing half of his games in a pitcher-friendly ballpark, O.co Coliseum in Oakland, when he was with the Oakland Athletics, is not a hitter's ballpark. Toronto is.
Breaking ball misses down and away. It's a ball and a strike. Donaldson, of course, brings that pedigree of playing in the postseason. And that's important. Both Russell Martin and Josh Donaldson have experienced what it means to win. And they're little intangible things they'll bring along to this ball club. Battling through minor injuries, playing against tough pitchers, going out there every day, knowing that you can be counted on for your teammates.
You've seen it in this game before, where you fall behind early and some guys will just say, there's 162 games, well, let's get them tomorrow. I don't think you're going to see that from these guys.
Ground ball to short. Gung to second for one. Rodriguez back to first. Double play. Sadler got the ground ball he was looking for after that leadoff walk, and Encarnacion is erased on the 6-4-3. So with 2 outs, Justin Smoak will get his first at bat. We'll talk about turning the roster over. 37 players in camp for the Blue Jays weren't in a Blue Jays organization a year ago. Smoak comes from the Seattle Mariners.
And there are his numbers last year. He has got some power. If he gets regular playing time, I think he's a cinch to hit 20, maybe even 25 home runs. He, too, played in a ballpark that was not conducive for hitting home runs in Seattle.
He has had seasons of 15, 19, and 20 home runs. It's a ground ball up the middle. Gung on the second base side of the bag, throws him out. A couple of ground balls lead to a double play and a ground out. We're through 2 here in Dunedin. 5-0 Pittsburgh. Welcome back to Dunedin, Florida. It's the first of the spring training games for the Blue Jays, and it's a gorgeous day. 24 degrees here in Dunedin. So if you're sitting up there in Canada, it's a little bit cold, jump on a plane. Come on down. We got a whole month of baseball ahead of us. And the weather has just been gorgeous the last couple of days. Third pitch of the ball game for the Blue Jays will be Marco Estrada, who was acquired by the Blue Jays from Milwaukee in the Adam Lynn trade.
Yeah, the long-time Blue Jay Adam Lynn goes to the Milwaukee Brewers on November the 1st. For Marco Estrada, this is a guy who might be a swingman for the Blue Jays. They're not real sure what they want to do with him. If he wants to start, he might do that. He might pitch out of the bullpen. He can certainly do that. The one thing he can do is he can throw strikes. He had a career high in innings pitched last year, 150 2/3, just 44 base on balls last year. He won't wow you again with the radar gun, but he'll throw a lot of strikes, mix it up, and keep you in ball games. And I think that's what the Blue Jays are looking for Marco Estrada.
Home runs have been a problem for Estrada. He gave up a league high 29 home runs a year ago in a very hitter-friendly ballpark in Milwaukee, Miller Park, but he's in another hitter-friendly ballpark at Rogers Center. Not overpowering by any means. He was born in Sonora, Mexico, grew up in Glendale, California.
Again, he's going to have to hit his spots, keep the ball down, get some movement on it. You see there's a little deception in that windup where that glove hand really, he throws it right at that batter, hiding that ball for as long as possible.
He's got a great changeup, and he'll use it any time in the count, and Marte was fooled by it. He's out in front. Marte reached on the Donaldson air his first time up. That set up the 3-run home run off the bat of Pedro Alvarez, who is standing on deck. It's great to be back at the ballpark, and I know these players are anxious to start the games. And Blue Jays' full squad was not required to report until this past Friday, so they haven't had an awful lot of opportunities to face live pitching.
No, they haven't. They lost a day this week on Saturday to the rain. It rained all day long. John Gibbons was talking about that the other day. They had to hit indoors, and it set them back just a little bit. Then they had the inter-squad game yesterday. All the regulars got just one at-bat in that game.
Bautista in right, backs up a few steps. Now he sets himself and makes the catch. Marte's retired.
But spring training's long enough, isn't it?
Too long.
Well, you got plenty of games to get your stroke down or get your arm in shape if you're a pitcher.
Yeah, it really is a challenge, and I think that's why the Blue Jays backed off on bringing the players down so early. They were one of the last teams to report. Pedro Alvarez hit an opposite field home run his first time up. That came off of Aaron Sanchez, a 3-run shot. You look at the infield defense, and they have put a dramatic shift on Alvarez. Josh Donaldson straight away at shortstop. Reyes the shortstop on the second base side of the infield.
If he's going to hit the ball to left field, it's probably going to be in the air, just like the home run that we saw. So that's why you see Donaldson, the third baseman, shifted over around the shortstop position. This guy has got some power. And I think him moving across the diamond to first base is going to be a good thing for him.
There's that changeup that Estrada throws so effectively. Gets him back into the at-bat. It's 2 balls and a strike. Alvarez is 28 years old. He was the second overall pick in the draft in 2008. Came out of Vanderbilt University. That was a very deep draft. Tampa Bay had the first pick, and unfortunately, Tampa Bay took a fellow named Tim Beckham. Didn't quite turn out for Beckham or the Rays, and there's another changeup.
Buster Posey was in that draft also, I believe.
Hosmer was 3rd. Brian Mattis was 4th. Posey was 5th. Yonder Alonso was 7th. Justin Smoke at first base was number 11. A rich draft, to be sure. That's a fair ball. Smoke underhands to Estrada. Alvarez is retired. Yeah, that 2008 draft was very deep. Brett Laurie, now of the Oakland A's, was number 16 in that draft. And the Blue Jays took a fella in the 17th spot, Mr. David Cooper. Didn't quite pan out as they had hoped. But that's the beauty of those teams that have a lot of success with those draft records.
Yeah.
You got to hit the mark with those number 1 picks especially.
And then a lot of teams are saying do-over. Time for a do-over.
2 outs, the shortstop, Jung-Ho Kang. Estrada, not big in stature, just about 6 foot tall, and you see keeps that glove right there in front of his face to hide the baseball as long as possible. There's a fly ball into deep center field. Pompey on the run. This ball is gone. Jung-Ho Kang, his first Major League home run, albeit a spring training game, goes opposite field. And a year ago in Korea, he hit 40 home runs and drove in 117. He's got some pop.
All through spring training, Clint Hurdle has wanted Young to be aggressive at the plate. Don't go up there and think too much. Just see the ball and hit it, because with that stroke, good things are going to happen. High leg kick like you see a lot of players that come over from the Pacific Rim, and that ball is driven out of the ballpark deep. That was a no-doubter the opposite way.
2-out home run. 6-0 Pirates. This is popped up. Tabata goes after the first pitch. Smoke over near the seats, but it's out of play.
And Clint was talking to us before the ball game about their shortstop, about, hey, we see something in this guy. He is not here to be a backup player or a fill-in player or a minor league player. We think that there's more inside this guy. Well, he showed right there what they were talking about, driving that ball out of the ballpark.
Gung will turn 28 in April. The Pirates won the posting bid to free him up from his Korean team. Just over $5 million they paid to post him, and then he got a 4-year contract worth about $11 million. He is the first position player from Korea to sign with a major league team as a free agent. There have been other Korean players that have played, but they signed and played in the minor leagues here before they made it to the big leagues.
I guess he's been putting on a show down in Bradenton also in batting practice.
Yeah, and that's what Hurdle alluded to prior to the game. He said, we thought we had maybe a pretty good backup middle infielder, but now we're starting to see the pop in his bat. He may have opened up our minds a little bit about the possibility of being a little bit more than that.
Well, it just gives them options. They have a couple of players over the next couple of years whose contracts are going to be up in their infield, and Clint says it just gives us options with going that we can plug him into these spots in case we don't sign these players back.
There is nothing like competition within a team to bring out the best in everybody. Full count, 2 outs. 6-0 Pirates. There's an off-speed pitch, and Tabata strikes out. So the Pirates score a 2-out run on a home run by their shortstop, Jung-Ho Gung.
Fans, MLB TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, is now available. You can watch over 250 spring training games and each and every regular season game live or on demand. It's in true HD. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit BlueJays.com for more details.
You also want to check out MLB.com. We are pleased to be joined by MLB Network this afternoon for this spring training game between Pittsburgh and Toronto. Also, we'd like to welcome those of you watching on American Forces Network. We're in Dunedin, Florida, Florida Auto Exchange Stadium. The Pittsburgh Pirates have taken a 6-0 lead. New pitcher for the Pirates is Stormy Pimentel.
Pimentel pitched for the Pirates last season. He had 38 strikeouts and 32 2/3 innings pitched for the Bucs last season. He's got a good fastball. He can ride it up in the strike zone and reaches 97 miles an hour power slider and a split, which is a swing and miss type of pitch for him. The Pirates have filled up their bullpen with hard throwers, much like a lot of the teams around baseball.
Yeah, it's been a trend around baseball that if you're going to pitch in a bullpen, you got to be a hard thrower, and that's why they are able to get those swing and misses late in the ball game. Their closer is Melanson. Mark Melanson has really blossomed into a premier closer for the Pirates, and he's done a terrific job for them. The offense will get you in position. The bullpen's got to close it out. Meister Isturis, the switch-hitting second baseman, happy to be back and healthy. Isturis played in just 10 games last year. He injured his knee walking down the steps of the dugout in Baltimore just prior to the start of the game. He takes ball 4, so he's aboard.
What a freak injury that was. You and I were getting ready for the ball game, and all of a sudden we saw him out there running, and the next thing we knew, he was a scratch.
He never got to the plate. 34 years old now, and he's in great shape. Of course, as he told me the other day, he had all summer to get in shape and recuperate that knee. He tore his ACL and tore the capsule on that knee. Here is Kevin Pillar. Pillar has been kind of an afterthought throughout the off-season, but he is one of those guys that's always had to fight for playing time.
The ink this offseason has gone to Michael Saunders when they got him from Seattle, and Dalton Pompey. You're right. Don't forget about Kevin Pillar.
Pillar says that I've had to play that way my whole career. He was a 32nd round pick out of Cal State Dominguez Hills in L.A., and that ball is driven deep to left field, and this one is out of here. How about that for throwing down the gloves in the spring? Kevin Pillar with a 2-run home run. That's the first Blue Jays hit of the afternoon.
Don't forget about me. I know we've got some good studs over here, some good young players in Dalton Pompey, but I've paid my dues in the minor leagues. I can show you what I can do. And right there, he takes that pitch from Pimentel, and it's a laser down the left field line. Watch how quickly the hands come through on that sinker. That's a ball that is very tough to keep fair. You have to pull your hands down through, keep the barrel going through the baseball, and drive that ball down the left field line. Good piece of hitting right there from Kevin Pillar.
Pillar is a career .321 hitter in his minor league career. He has hit everywhere he has played. Dalton Pompey, he's a switch hitter. He's the youngster that's going to get the extended opportunity to play in center field. Those are his numbers from 17 games, including that home run against Felix Hernandez. There's a base hit for Pompey. He's hustling around the bag. He's going to put the pressure on Polanco to get it back in quickly. So Pompey gets a base hit in his first at bat of the spring.
That'll go a long way for confidence. If the Blue Jays, the plan is to put him at the bottom of the lineup and just let him develop here in spring training. Don't put too much pressure on. They've got plenty of bats. Just go up there, have good, solid at-bats, just like you saw right there, play good defense, and you'll be the opening day center fielder.
Back to the top of the order, shortstop Jose Reyes. Pompey can run. That's another thing that he brings to the bottom of the order, not only his switch-hitting bat, but the ability to steal bases.
Well, think about it. If you turn that lineup over like they have right now, you get him on base, and then Reyes, and then here come the big boys.
There goes Pompey. Pitches upstairs, throw to second, not nearly in time. Boy, with this lineup, you get speed down the bottom of the order, set the table for the top of the order, and the Blue Jays are scoring a ton of runs.
It'll give them a lot of opportunities for RBIs. Pimentel forgets about the runner over at first base. A huge jump. Watch this. 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 steps before he gets rid of that baseball. That's an easy steal for Pompey.
Reyes takes his strike. Pompey had 113 steals in his minor league career and was caught just 20 times. Good judgment on the bases. 2-1 to Reyes. Inside. Now it's 3 balls and a strike. Speed with Pompey at second. Reyes, of course, always noted for his speed. He had 30 steals a year ago. Then you've got Russell Martin, who can handle a bat, batting in the 2-hole with Bautista behind him. And there's the walk. So Russell Martin will step to the plate. For more on Martin, let's check in with Barry Davis.
We already have seen what kind of an impact Russell Martin has in the Blue Jays clubhouse. He says he learned from a former teammate in New York, Derek Jeter. Said the 2 years he was there, he observed everything he did, including one thing he loves, which was, Derek Jeter said, don't give the opposing pitchers any credit. Pretend in your mind they stink, regardless how good they are. He says he's taken that here, and as we see, he's become a huge influence with the Toronto Blue Jays. Great man in the clubhouse for them right now.
Barry, that's a great piece of information, but the most interesting aspect of that is the fact that when Russell Martin came to the Yankees, he was already an established player. He'd been an all-star with the Dodgers. But he could still learn something from a future Hall of Famer and picked it up.
It is true. Sometimes you have to lie to yourself when you're standing in that batter's box and you're facing a guy throwing 98 miles an hour. You got to say, hey, I've got the upper hand here. You might not believe it, but you've got to go ahead and tell yourself that and get in there.
First and second, nobody out. Blue Jays on the board. 2-run home run off the bat of Kevin Pillar. Now Russell Martin. Grounded out to short his first time up. He pops this one in the air into center field. Decker circles under it. Pompey's tagging. The throw's going to go to second base. Reyes is going to be tagged out, but the ball is on the ground. Sean Rodriguez put the tag on Reyes, but lost the grip on the baseball. So Reyes was safely in at second as Pompey moves to third.
That could have been very dangerous for the Blue Jays, simply because of the guys who are coming up in the lineup right here. You're 3, 4, and 5. He concedes third base, throws behind the runner, and he was out. If Rodriguez holds on to that baseball, Jose's going to be out, and then you got Bautista hitting with 2 outs and a runner on third base. But it's dropped by Rodriguez, and now Bautista's got a couple of runners out there for RBI opportunities.
Second and third, 1 out. Bautista, the batter. He grounded out to second his first time up. Goes after the first pitch. That's a foul ball. The interesting aspect of this lineup with Bautista in his familiar 3 spot. Then you've got Encarnacion behind him. He too is a 100 RBI guy. Speed on the bases in Pompey and Reyes, and there is no place for the pitcher to hide. And when you have a lineup like this, Pat, you can speak to this. The hitters know they don't have to expand their zone.
They feed off of each other, and you can feel the tension and the pressure that's on the pitcher right now. The Blue Jays looking for that big base hit right here. Get him back into the ball game.
Bautista fouls it out of play.
You know, here's another aspect of having an offense like this. What does it do for the pitching? Hey, you're never out of any ball game. You just go out there and just keep throwing up zeros, even if you're behind 5-0 after the first 2 innings. Keep throwing zeros up there. We got a chance to come back.
Bautista fouls it off and stays alive. This might be one of the best middle of the orders in all of baseball when you put Bautista in the third spot and Encarnacion right behind him. Edwin had 34 homers a year ago and missed the time, as Pat had talked about earlier. Bautista with 35. There's a bouncing ball. Pompey comes in. He'll score. It's a fair ball. Bautista picks up the RBI. So speed factors in. Pompey singled, stole second, moves up on the fly ball, and scores on a ground out. That's manufacturing a run.
Blue Jays had a lot of home runs last season, second in the American League to the Baltimore Orioles, but I think for them to be a winning ball club, they've got to play a little bit more like this at times. You're not going to hit the home run every single time. You're going to have to manufacture runs, and that's a great example of it right there.
2 outs now for Encarnacion. He's the DH this afternoon. Edwin has told the ball club he'll do whatever is best for the team, play some first, DH, but I believe, and I think the ball club probably believes, that he's better served to be the DH every day. You get him off his feet for half the time and keep him in that lineup. Give him the opportunity to get 550 at bats. He's going to put up some big numbers.
He had some problems last year. We talked about the quad problem that he hurt out in Oakland in July. He also was battling some back problems at times last season. Blue Jays aren't sure if that was from playing on the turf or playing too much first base. But if he does play first base, that allows Deanna Navarro's bat to get in the lineup a little bit more frequently.
Ball and a strike, cut on and missed. Deanna Navarro, he's interesting as well. He had a terrific season a year ago, maybe one of his finest seasons overall. And what's his reward? Blue Jays go out and sign Russell Martin to a 5-year contract. Breaking ball missed.
That's where patience is going to have to play in. You've been on teams and you've been around ball clubs where these types of situations come up. Something always happens. Somebody gets hurt, someone gets traded, whatever, to open up that spot. Just have to be patient right now.
Fouled off as Encarnacion fights off that inside hitter. Boy, you're right. When you look at teams, they say, boy, they have too many pitchers. They got to do something. Well, you know what? Let it play out. Somebody's always going to go down. Somebody will get nicked up. And I think Alex Anthopoulos, the GM of the Blue Jays, understands don't make decisions until you have to. 2-2, 2 outs. Another foul into the seats.
We're going to have to raise that bar over there to get that get that fencing a little bit higher with Encarnacion at the plate.
Well, it's spring training for fans, too. They got to get used to dodging those baseballs. Saw Hutchison and Stroman, two of the young starters, taking in the action in the Blue Jays dugout. That gets away from Sanchez. Reyes is going to move to third. Looked like it was a pass ball. Sounded like it got an awful lot of the glove.
Split change. Yeah, and he boxes that one up. He was anticipating that ball going into the dirt, and it rode right off of the heel of his glove.
Sanchez in competition with Chris Stewart for the backup role. Clint Hurdle told us earlier that Francisco Cervelli is going to get the opportunity to be the #1 catcher in Pittsburgh, taking over for Russell Martin.
Edwin Encarnacion has become such a good two-strike breaking ball hitter. I think that has been the key for him to become the elite hitter that he has become. You make a mistake with 2 strikes on a breaking ball, he's going to hurt you.
And he still has the bat control to fight off the tough fastballs. Edwin's lot as a hitter really took off when he started working with Luis Mercedes, Robinson Cano's hitting coach down in Dominican Republic. And they all got together, and he started keeping 2 hands on the bat, and that allowed him to stay through the hitting zone a little more consistently. Full count pitch, popped in the air. Alvarez over, but that's going to drift into the seats, well out of play.
Not a lot of foul territory here in Dunedin, so those type of balls right there that in the season might be caught gives Edwin an extra chance to swing the bat.
You know, as a pitcher, you make good pitches. He keeps fighting off all the pitches. You talk about confidence. You begin to lose your confidence as a pitcher, wondering what I have to do to get this guy out. Another full count pitch. Foul tip. Sanchez can't hang on to it.
And on the other side of that, the more pitches you see as a hitter, the more confident you become. You see everything that he has to offer, and if he makes a mistake, your timing after seeing all those pitches are that much better, and you end up getting yourself a base hit.
Another tough pitch he fights off. Boy, this is an early test for Encarnacion. Some of those pitches are balls that he'll hammer another couple of weeks into the season. A little more timing, but he has hit some borderline pitches to stay alive. Pops this one up over near the Blue Jays dugout, and that's going to be out of play as well.
Can't ask for a better at bat, can you?
Now, it's good opportunity here in the first game for Encarnacion. How often do you get in one of your first games in spring training, get a couple pitches, hit 2 ground balls, and you're out of the game?
Yeah, and you get nothing out of it. You take your, 25, 30 swings in the morning time, and you get ready for the game, get your 2 at-bats, and then you're out here. This is a great opportunity for him to see a lot of pitches.
Even Tell wins that battle as Encarnacion swings right through it, but the Blue Jays are on the board. Kevin Pillar, a 2-run home run. Bautista, an RBI. It's 6-3 Pittsburgh.
Blue Jays Spring Training on Sportsnet. Brought to you by Scott's Coated Grass Seed. This spring, build up your outfield, even if you miss a day of watering, with Scott's Coated Grass Seed.
For those of you who have toques and gloves on back in Ontario, we have a couple of fans down here that are using their gloves to shade their heads. It's a hot day down here. Started the game, it was 24 degrees. So come on down to Florida, folks. It's nice down here, and you get to see some baseball.
Bring your sunscreen.
Yeah, for sure.
Gobbing it on as we speak.
Marco Estrada in his second inning of work. Set to work to Davison Romero, the third baseman. Romero's 28 years old. He spent most of his career in the Twins minor league system. It's his first year with Pittsburgh. Pops this one out of play over our heads. We got some more interesting pitchers the Blue Jays will send to the mound, including Steve Delabar. And how about Miguel Castro, the 20-year-old big right-hander? He'll pitch today. Kyle Drabeck is scheduled to work, and Romero goes after that changeup.
I think you want to stick around to watch Castro. From everything that we have heard, this guy might be the real deal. Big arm out of that bullpen.
Little tapper to third. Donaldson gloves it, fires across his body in time. Nice play by Josh Donaldson. Gets his second opportunity. Had a little chopper back in the first inning with 2 outs that he couldn't make a play on. Was charged with an error, but he makes this play very smoothly.
Yeah, that one didn't turn out too well. This one did. You can see he's playing back just a little bit more with 2 strikes, so he's got a little bit longer way to go. That is a tough throw to make for a third baseman. Watch where he is heading. He is heading towards home plate. He's got to throw all the way across his body, back around, and he keeps it on the inside part of the diamond, making an easy play for Justin Smoke.
If you didn't hear the pregame show with Greg Zahn and Jamie Campbell, they talked to Donaldson about his transition. He was a catcher. A couple of years ago, they suffered an injury in the major leagues. They said, hey, you got to play some third base, and he had a crash course of third. There's a line drive to right off the bat of Tony Sanchez. Bautista hauls it in, 2 outs. But Donaldson has turned into a Gold Glove caliber third baseman. Donaldson played 1,320 innings last year. He was charged with 23 errors, but many of those errors were throwing errors. He had 6 different third basemen in Oakland, and none of them were what you would call a Keith Hernandez or Don Mattingly kind of first baseman. So if Justin Smoke can win the job at first for the Blue Jays, that error total for Donaldson should drop dramatically.
We have been blessed, haven't we, here in Toronto, to see some of the great third basemen over the years play. Scott Rowland, Kelly Gruber, Brett Laurie. I'm talking defensively right now.
There's a liner in front of Bautista off the bat of Jeff Decker. He has his second hit of the afternoon. He's 2 for 3 with a 2-out single.
Troy Kloss comes to mind, some of the third basemen, and now Josh Donaldson. I mean, it just one right after another. The Blue Jays are throwing them out there.
Well, when you go back to the heyday of the Blue Jays, 92-93, and a guy that got overlooked a lot but had a dramatic impact on the team was the first baseman, John Olerud. He was 6'6", big target, good hands over at first, and dug a lot of low throws out. Smoke might have that same kind of impact defensively.
He is already, in the couple of days that we have been here, we've seen the scrimmage and some of the defensive situational work that they have done. He's already flashed that leather. Made a great play in the inter-squad scrimmage yesterday.
Sean Rodriguez with a ball and a strike. He's grounded out twice. This is popped up. Russell Martin, he's got room, flips the mask off and up against the screen, makes the catch. So the 2-out single doesn't hurt. The Pirates leave a runner. We're headed to the bottom of the 4th. It's a 6-3 Pittsburgh lead. Josh Donaldson will lead things off when we come back.
Your best friend, A.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership. The Ospreys are around here at Florida Auto Exchange Stadium, and they're out. It's a gorgeous day. Billowy clouds out beyond the center field wall, and the temperature 24 degrees. New pitcher is Archimedes Cananero, formerly of the Marlins.
You're going to see a theme from the Pittsburgh Pirates from here on out. You're going to see some big, strong, hard-throwing players coming out of that bullpen. Here's another one. Habanero, 6'4", 245. He's 27 years old. He throws hard. Very hard. Fastball, cutter, split. But he has had trouble finding the strike zone. That has been the problem. He's had problem repeating that delivery and keeping that ball in the strike zone consistently.
Last year in AAA New Orleans, he had 30 walks in 63 innings, so command has been an issue. He misses with the first pitch to Josh Donaldson. Donaldson utilizes that leg kick. Said he has admired Jose Bautista in the way he has put up big numbers, and he's incorporated that leg kick, and you can see 29 and 98, it's working for him.
Yeah, he can hit the ball out of any ballpark, and he does not get cheated.
He's one of those guys that loves to talk shop, if you will, and sit around and talk hitting, talk about ballparks. And Donaldson offered some interesting perspective on the Blue Jays bullpen from a year ago. He said, I know they don't get a lot of credit, but there were some good arms in that pen last year. And one he mentioned in particular was Chad Jenkins. He said he was up and down, I know, but every time I faced him, he threw me that bowling ball sinker. Breaking ball just missed. 2-2 to Donaldson. Donaldson was somewhat surprised when he got the phone call from Oakland to tell him he had been traded.
Just keep asking. And that's what Alex Anthopoulos did. He all winter long, Billy Beane, he kept asking for Josh Donaldson, and Billy said, no, can't do it until Brett Lawrie's name came up. And then the discussion turned.
Blue Jays have Donaldson under control for 4 years. And that's why Donaldson was a little surprised. He knows Billy Beane, the GM of the Athletics, and how he moves his players. When they get close to free agency, he will make a deal and get 3 or 4 players in return. And Donaldson said, you know, I knew I'd get traded, but I thought it'd be a couple more years. So he takes the leadoff walk here in the bottom of the 4th. Caminero, as we mentioned, with control problems, walks the first batter he faces.
Blue Jays showing some patience now at the plate. A couple of walks last inning led to those 3 runs, and now another leadoff walk. That's how last inning started for the Jays.
Justin Smoke hit just over 200 a year ago. Smoke was a former #1 pick of the Texas Rangers. We mentioned he was in that deep draft in 2008. He was traded in July of 2010 by the Rangers to Seattle for a trade that included Cliff Lee and Mark Lowe. So he was the centerpiece of that trade. And when the Blue Jays acquired Smoke, they got him off waivers. Alex Anthopoulos mentioned to Smoke, no expectations. We want you to be Justin Smoke. You weren't traded for Cliff Lee. You don't have to put up huge numbers. Just come in and be Justin Smoke.
Well, he's playing in, I think, more hitter-friendly ballparks in the American League East. You talk about Boston, Fenway Park, Yankee Stadium, Camden Yards, Rogers Center. That's a lot different than
Seattle, Oakland, Anaheim.
Anaheim?
Yeah.
Very different.
1-2 to Smoke. Nobody out. Donaldson at first. Cut on and missed that high fastball. He strikes out.
He'll ride that fastball up there, Will Caminero. He's got a good arm. Blue Jays are going to have to wait him out, make sure he keeps it in the strike zone. Watch for this one. Rides high in the strike zone. And Smoke swings through it.
Good four-seam heater upstairs. Izturis, the second baseman now. Meister Izturis in the competition for the everyday role at second base, along with Ryan Goins. Steve Tollison's in the mix. Devin Travis, a youngster who was acquired in a deal with the Tigers for Anthony Gose. Travis has never played above Double-A, but you look back at his record going all the way back to Florida State, he's been a good offensive player.
Blue Jays have a lot of players in camp. Lots of decisions, and that's why they're going to play so many ball games. They're trying to get some more B games to get the pitchers their work. I mean, there's 4 guys right there at second base. I believe they have 4 first basemen that they have to choose from.
Encarnacion, Smoke, Danny Valencia, and Chris Colabello all have a legitimate.
Derek Barton is also in
from
camp.
The A's, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Three and 1 to Izturis. Blue Jays signed Meiser Izturis to a 3-year contract a couple of years ago. This is the 3rd and final year of that contract. And when they signed him, he was coming off some pretty good seasons with the Angels. He had a 35 double season in 2011. He drove in 65 runs for the Angels in 2009. And he's one of those guys that's intriguing, gives you the versatility of being a switch hitter.
Had a poor season in 2013 for the Blue Jays, his first year of that contract. Then last year he had a great spring and he got off to a pretty decent start for the Blue Jays 10 games into it, and then was injured and was gone.
There goes Donaldson. The ball is hit back to the mound. They'll have no play at second, and pitcher goes to first for the out. So Kevin Pillar, in his first at-bat of the spring with a runner aboard, gets a hold of one to left.
Not really known as a home run hitter, but if you put a good swing on a ball down and in like that, a lot of times you'll see guys roll over that and hook that ball foul. That time Pillar stayed through, down and through on that ball, kept it fair down the left field line. It's a good way to start your spring training right there. One swing, one home run.
Biggest thing for Pillar is he has to become more selective. 2 times we have seen him in the big leagues, he has a tendency to chase a lot of pitches well out of the strike zone.
Don't you think that has to do with being a little anxious, wanting to prove that you're going to go up there and you're going to hit?
I think it has everything to do with it.
Yeah, I think he's a little bit too anxious, wanting to prove that he belongs. He wants to do it. And you'd see him swing at balls way off the plate. And I think that will come. Once he plays a little bit longer, gets a little bit more comfortable, slows the game down just a little bit more, you're going to see some better at-bats.
He has talked about the impact Jose Bautista's had on him and their conversations about hitting, how to look for a pitch, what to expect, how to change your mindset with 2 strikes. Pops this one in the air, shallow center field. Center fielder coming in. He calls off Rodriguez, the second baseman, and Jeff Decker makes the catch. Pillar is retired. Blue Jays leave a runner. We'll head to the 5th. 6-3 ball game here in Dunedin.
Team Canada are looking for a little payback against Japan at last year's Davis Cup, and it continues this year in Vancouver. Canada versus Japan Saturday on Sportsnet 1.
Kevin Parlar has moved to center field. Dalton Pompey has moved to left field.
Back here in Dunedin, new pitcher for the Blue Jays will be Steve Delabar, who had a disappointing year last season, anxious to bounce back.
Well, first of all, he looks different than he did last year. It looks like he's gained about 25 pounds, so it looks like that fastball is back. The problems that Steve had last year were command problems, something we did not see in 2013. You can see the strikeouts, 21 to go along with those 19 base on balls for the season for Delabar. That was in 25 innings last season. Command of the fastball just wasn't there. He was shooting out away from him. He just couldn't command it. Hopefully he'll be able to find that this year.
New second baseman is Devin Travis, who we mentioned in that competition. Travis is 24 years old. He's listed at 5'9", and the shortstop is Ryan Goins, who got some extended opportunities at second base last year. So new defense up the middle for the Blue Jays, and Delabar delivers his first pitch. It's in there. Boy, oh boy, this might be the entire key to the success of the bullpen right here in Steve Delabar.
Everyone we talk to in the Blue Jays organization says the same thing, that Steve Delabar might be the guy who can really solidify the bullpen. There's a lot of question marks in that bullpen heading into this season. If he can regain that all-star caliber that we saw in 2013, it's going to go a long way of helping this bullpen get pieced together. He's got a great arm. The fastball is back up into the mid-90s. A great splitter that he can use as a finishing pitch, a strikeout pitch. But the command has got to be there. He's got to be able to shoot that ball where he needs to.
One thing that's encouraging for me is how quickly Delabar is working. That tells me that he feels good about what he's featuring, and he's anxious to attack that hitter. There's that splitter in the dirt. Russell Martin still behind the plate, so he's getting his first look at Delabar in game action.
I love the idea that he's going to be catching this long. Blue Jays play in Bradenton tomorrow, then a night game down in Sarasota, so the regulars are getting some work.
There's a liner to left field. Dalton Pompey is there, makes the sliding catch. Pompey started in center field, and they have switched. Kevin Pillar has moved to center. Pompey makes a nice sliding catch in support of Delabar.
Blue Jays actually did that last inning where they flip-flop. Pillar came up as a center fielder. Pompey can play anywhere. Gets a good jump on this ball. Good read. And a route to the ball. And there's the athleticism right there to take that base hit away from Polanco.
Now, we mentioned one of the aspects that sometimes gets overlooked is the improvement of the defense for the Blue Jays. There's a base hit through the left side for Starling Marte, the DH. But when you think about the presence of Russell Martin behind the plate every day as their catcher, he had a very good year throwing out base runners. Plus his presence and impact on the pitching staff. Then the possibility of Smoke at first. Blue Jays used a lot of different combinations at first base last year. Whoever wins the job at second base, going to be a pretty good defender. Reyes and Donaldson on the infield. And then the outfield gets much better.
Numbers-wise for the Blue Jays last year defensively wasn't all that bad. They were fourth in the American League in fielding percentage. They tied for the third fewest errors in the American League with 87. They were tied with Baltimore, who has a reputation of a very good fielding team. But when you watch the team play defense, and this is where the numbers can't tell you, you hit the cutoff men. Do you cover the ground? Do you back up bases? Do you do all the little things to help you become a very good defensive team? Blue Jays number-wise was good, but when you watched them, they were not a very good defensive team last year.
The balls that got through the outfield and went for extra bases, those balls need to be cut off. Pedro Alvarez, the first baseman, takes one down.
I think the one thing that they have done this year is they have gotten better athletes into prime positions. Russell Martin is an outstanding athlete behind the plate. Dalton Pompey is an outstanding athlete in center field. Justin Smoke over at first base is very nimble. We all know about Josh Donaldson, what a good athlete he is. Michael Saunders is another one. We haven't been able to talk about him because he's on the shelf right now being injured. He's an outstanding athlete. That's the one, I think, aspect of this team where you see a the greatest improvement over the winter.
Michael Saunders, as you know, he had knee surgery a couple of days ago. This is a high fly ball to right field. Pompey never saw it, and the ball is a fair ball. Pompey lost it in the high sky. Marte's around third, and there'll be no throw. Pedro Alvarez picks up his 4th RBI of the afternoon on a fly ball that dropped just inside the left field foul line for an RBI double. Pompey threw up his hands. He never saw the ball off the bat. He knew it was over toward the line, but you can see he doesn't see it here, and when it lands in fair territory.
I think even if he sees that ball, he's not going to catch it where he was positioned. He was positioned in the gap in left center field, and with the pull hitter in Alvarez, the left-handed hitter, they had punched him into the gaps. That ball was right down the line. He wasn't going to catch that even if he did see it.
Jung-Ho Kang homered to the opposite field his last time up. Shortstop 1 for 2 on the afternoon. Kang hit .356 and hit 40 homers and drove in 117 last year in Korea. In the Korean baseball organization, their professional league.
Those 40 home runs weren't good enough to lead the league?
No. He finished second. Young-Ho Park hit 52 to lead the league. Former Blue Jay Eric Thames was third in the Korean League last year. He had 37 home runs. And Thames actually finished second in RBIs to Young-Ho Park, who drove in 124. Thames had 121 RBIs. 1-2. He checked in time.
40 home runs and a .356 batting average.
Very difficult to gauge how that translates into the major leagues. Eric Thames, of course, struggled in his limited time in the big leagues. And he flourishes in Korea to the point where he's gone back over there and signed a 2-year contract to play 2 more seasons in Korea.
Delbar's got to put him away right here. 3-2.
Split missed inside. That's ball 4. A 1-out walk. Let's check in with Barry Davis, who has a little more on Steve Delabar.
Guys, one of the factors behind his struggles last season is the fact that he wasn't 100% healthy. It actually goes back to the end of the 2013 season. His arm wasn't feeling great. He had to back off on the weighted ball program. Then last season, he battled with both knees. Not enough to go on the DL, but enough to bother him all year. Having said that, he's not using that as an excuse at all. He says, quite simply, I stunk last year, and I do not want to stink this year. Buck?
Barry, that's a great point. And Delabar, of course, he's had so much adversity throughout his career. He had Tommy John surgery early in his career. He was out of baseball completely because of arm problems, and then rebuilt his arm, got back to the major leagues with Seattle, and ultimately made an all-star team in 2013.
Threw a pitch and shattered his arm, basically. They didn't think that he would ever throw a baseball again, but it healed. He strengthened it. Got a chance with the Mariners. Blue Jays picked him up in a trade
for Eric Thames.
Yeah,
we were talking about Thames. Yep. Jose Tabata, the left fielder, he has got over 2. He struck out his last time up against Marco Estrada. Delabar's the 4th Blue Jay pitcher to work this afternoon. Aaron Sanchez started. He pitched an inning and a third, gave up 4 hits and a 3-run home run to Pedro Alvarez. He came out and overpowered the first 2 batters he faced, and then gave up a little 2-strike, 2-out bloop base hit to Gregory Polanco. Donaldson committed an error, and it set the table for the 3-run home run off Sanchez.
When Steve Delabar had that all-star season a couple of seasons ago, his split-finger fastball had great depth to it. It looked like a fastball coming towards the plate and then would just drop right off of the table, and he got a lot of strikeouts, swing and miss strikeouts off of the batters. That's one thing that we haven't seen. The ball just seems to be tumbling over home plate when he throws that splitter last year.
How much would that have to do with arm strength?
I think all of it has to do with arm strength. Barry was talking about that he wasn't been able to, with the leg problems, get that arm strength up. He was 217 pounds last year. He's up to 235 this year. So it looks like Steve's got that strength back. Now let's see if he can make a pitch right here. This is a good spot to do it. Right after that high fastball, throw that splitter right here in the dirt.
1-2. There it is, right down the middle. Tabata strikes out for a second time. Delamar delivers a big strikeout.
A little bit more late movement on that one than the few that we have seen that have been hit in this inning. Gets on top of that one and really drives it and fools to Tabata.
Two outs now. Runner at second base is Alvarez. The third baseman, Debinson Romero, has walked, scored a run, and also grounded out. 7-3 Pirates. They have 7 runs on 8 hits. Blue Jays have 3 runs on 2 hits. Popped out of play. We mentioned the Blue Jays lost the whole day to the rain here, and that robbed the Blue Jay hitters of an opportunity to hit against live pitching. They had one day of hitting against their pitchers, and the second group of pitchers was going to throw on Saturday, and that never worked out because of the rain.
And they had the inter-squad game yesterday, 7 innings, 1 run.
Yeah.
1-0, a home run by a young player by the name of Mitch Ney. And that was it.
Yeah, and you know what? It takes a while to knock the rust off of those bats. Really not surprising. Blue Jays have managed just 2 hits. Kevin Pillar hit a 2-run home run in the third. Dalton Pompey followed that with a single, and that's been it. Delamar ahead 0-2. Tried to elevate that fastball, didn't get it up quite high enough.
Even though you throw as hard as he does, you still have to hit your spots. Rick Langford was talking to me this morning in South Fasano. Some of the pitching coaches from the minor leagues that were watching some of the bullpens, they told me that he was hitting his spots in his bullpen session his last time out, just firing, hitting the glove down and away.
There's a fly ball into center. Pillar backs up a few steps. Now he comes in and makes a waist-high catch. The Pirates leave a pair. Delamar gets his first inning out of the way. Laframboise. He pitched for the Pirates a year ago, made 6 appearances for Pittsburgh, worked down the bullpen, and he is on here to start the bottom of the 5th inning.
Big left-hander. Again, we talked about these guys coming out of the bullpen. They're going to be tall. He was drafted 3 times. White Sox, the Diamondbacks, and the Mariners. He's a ground ball pitcher. Doesn't overthrow. Doesn't throw it by. He's got a nice little slider. Ground ball when he moved that arm slot down to 3/4. Dalton Pompey will be the first batter that he will face, and Pompey has been very busy this afternoon. First time up, he singled to center field. That was off of Pimentel. He got himself a stolen base, a great jump and an aggressive slide into second base. He tagged up on a fly ball, moved to third base, and then scored on that little squiver by Jose Bautista. He's also made a really nice catch in the outfield. So Dalton Pompey very busy here through the first 4 innings.
A little bit of everything for Pompey, and that's what you want. Get that first hit out of the way in spring training, and he's done that. Switch hitter batting right-handed for the first time this afternoon. Blue Jays featuring 3 switch hitters in their lineup to start this game. Justin Smoke, the first baseman, Meiser Asturias, the second baseman, and Dalton Pompey, who started in center. Boy, it gives you so much versatility when you can pencil in 3 switch hitters and puts pressure on the opposing manager.
There were years where the Blue Jays didn't even have switch hitters on their roster. You're just playing right into the hands of some of those other ball clubs, especially late in the ball game.
Well, there are so many specialists in the game now, left-handed specialists, right-handed specialists, and when you've got switch hitters, it really takes away the value of those special pitchers out of the bullpen.
You can't get the matchup that you're looking for. A right-handed pitcher on a right-handed batter, where the breaking ball comes into play, vice versa, left on left.
Pompey stays alive, just foul outside of third. Dalton Pompey is from Mississauga, 16th round pick when he was drafted by the Blue Jays, and it's taken him a while to develop. Didn't make a team out of spring training first couple of years. He stayed in extended spring training, then went off to begin his career later on in the season, but boy, he came through last year.
Started in A-ball last year and jumped all the way to the big leagues.
This is popped in the air into center. Decker coming in now, that wind pushing it back toward the infield. He gets there, makes the catch. Pompey's retired. So now we'll get our first look at Devin Travis. Travis was acquired in a trade that sent Anthony Ghost to the Tigers. And the Blue Jays got Travis in return. He's 24 years old. He was born in Florida. Played at Florida State. He just turned 24.
You can see from those numbers right there, he's got a little pop in that bat. He's got a very short swing. Not a lot of stride, not a lot of movement at the plate right there, and he always seems to barrel up the baseball. No room in Detroit with Ian Kinsler signed. So Dave Dombrowski figured that he was available. They needed some speed in the outfield, and it looks like a trade that might work out for both players. Anthony Ghost gets a chance to play for the Tigers, and Travis gets a chance at making this ball club.
Ground ball to Hopper to third. Romero throws out Travis. 2 down.
Well, that's what you will get from Bobby Laframboise right there. He moved that arm angle down just a little bit a couple of years ago, and he's become a ground ball specialist.
That happened in the 2014 wild card game against the Giants. He came into the game in the 7th inning with 1 out, runners on first and second. Got Brandon Crawford to hit into a double play. So here's Russell Martin. Russell getting his 3rd at bat of the afternoon. And he drives this one to left. This is trouble. It is off the wall. Martin around first. He will stop there as they get the ball back in quickly. So Russell Martin will probably come out of the game after getting a ringing single off the wall in left field. And that will be a nice way to end the day for Russell Martin as he leaves in favor of the pinch runner.
That's the way to finish off your day right there. A smart base running also, knowing who's hitting behind them. You don't want to be running into any outs on the bases. With Jose Bautista scheduled to hit.
Anthony Alford, pinch runner at first base, a fleet-footed outfielder. Bautista drills it to left. That'll get down for a base hit. Alford around second. He'll stop there. Back-to-back singles for the Blue Jays. So Bautista, like Martin, will now leave after singling. Derek Barton will come in to pinch hit. Bautista's day is over. He finishes up 1 for 3. Jonathan Diaz has taken over as the pinch runner for Bautista. So first and second, 2 outs. Derek Barton will hit for Edwin Encarnacion. Edwin finished up 0 for 1 with a strikeout and a walk.
But that strikeout counted for 2 at-bats. That was about a 15-pitch at-bat for Encarnacion. So Barton is going to get a chance now against the left-hander.
Derek Barton is one of those first basemen Pat referred to early on. He is 29 years old. Spent his entire career with Oakland. Got up to the big leagues last year for 30 games. Had just 57 at bats. But he had a career year in 2010. Played in 159 games. Hit .273 with 33 doubles, 10 homers, and 57 RBIs. Breaking ball, hooked foul.
Well, he's going to have to grind right now because he's in tough against a tough left-hander. He's always been a guy who sees a lot of pitches. He's got great strike zone awareness. Puts the ball in play. He's always had high on-base percentage. This La Framboise, he starts that ball behind the left-handed batter. You got to be able to stay on that breaking ball.
0-2, 2 outs. Way outside, Alford will stay put at second. Anthony Alford pinch running for Russell Martin, who singled with 2 outs. Jonathan Diaz is the runner at first. He took over for Bautista, who also singled. We're in the bottom of the 5th. It's 7-3 Pittsburgh. There's a little flare to left. That's going to drop. Alford's making the turn around third. Here's the throw from left field. It is not handled by Sanchez as Barton picks up the pinch RBI single. Alford scores easily as that ball handcuffed Tony Sanchez, the catcher.
What a nice piece of hitting right there from Barton. He knew he was going to have to stay on that breaking ball, and it looked like that's what he went to. Just blooped it in the left field. Pirates had it played perfectly. Shallow in left field as he stays on that ball, bloops it to left field, and Alford with 2 strikes running on the swing. Takes off and beats this throw easily. Heads up base running by Diaz and Barton as they both get into scoring position on the throw to the plate.
So it's now 7-4 Pittsburgh. Danny Valencia is batting for Josh Donaldson. Valencia takes a breaking ball in there for a strike. Donaldson finishes up 0 for 1. Grounded into a double play and walked in his 2 plate appearances. This is the beauty of spring training. Got to be quick on your feet if you're trying to keep score.
You can't keep score.
Another breaking ball boxed up by Sanchez as he tracks it down.
This is a situation right here where Valencia, where he could really help the ball club. He's been known to wear out left-handed pitching. It works perfectly in his favor right here. A couple of runners in scoring position. You got a left-hander out on the mound. It doesn't overpower you. Put a good at-bat together right here.
Ball and a strike to Danny Valencia coming off the bench. This will be a role he will face many times this season. He's a right-handed threat. Got some pop. He has taken some balls in the outfield. He's a third baseman. Has played some first, and now he is working in the outfield. Changeup misses downstairs.
Anything to help make a ball club. Your versatility, where you can play different positions, and then have a weapon on the bench, just like this, in this situation, that you can be called upon by John Gibbons to come in tough situations against a left-handed pitcher, and there's plenty in the American League East.
Valencia hit .321 against lefties last year with a couple of home runs. 3-1 pitch. Outside, ball 4. So that'll load the bases with 2 outs, and they're going to see another big power hitting right-hander come off the bench, Chris Colabello. Colabello's an interesting study in confidence and persistence. He played 11 years in independent ball before he got an opportunity to play with the Minnesota Twins 2 years ago. Last year, he got off to a very good start with Minnesota and then hurt his thumb. Way outside, not close.
Crazy good start in the month of April. He was leading the American League in RBIs in April. And then that thumb injury, and I talked to him today, not once did he use that as an excuse.
He hit .286 last April with 3 homers and 27 RBIs in just 23 games. And he's got some pop. He tried to play through that thumb injury. Given his background, he hadn't had many opportunities to play. So he wasn't going to come out of the lineup, which what he classified as a minor injury. But obviously, it robbed him of his ability to hit. Big swing, and he missed that fastball.
Got cheated there. That thumb injury, it tore something inside that thumb, and every time he hit a baseball, he said his whole thumb would go numb.
He's got a total of 13 Major League home runs and 365 at bats over the course of 2 seasons with the Twins. Just outside, 3-1. Colabello is 31 years old. Still got plenty of upside in his career. Of course, a lot of the Blue Jay players have played against Colabello in the minor leagues. Good rip. He missed it, fouled it straight back. It's a full count. So the bases are loaded. There are 2 outs, so the runners will be off on the pitch. Blue Jays have scored a run here in the 5th. Derek Barton with an RBI single with 2 outs. Bobby LaFramboise, Chris Colabello, the payoff pitch. He'll stay alive, went upstairs and fouled off that high fastball.
Too close to take right there. Keep that at bat alive. Low ball hitter.
He had power to all fields. Right now, he's just trying to put the ball in play. That should cash in at least 2 runs. Chases a pitch off the plate and strikes out. The Blue Jays score a run, but they leave the bases loaded. We're through 5 in Dunedin. Pittsburgh with the lead. pitcher for the Blue Jays is Kyle Drabek. You see his numbers from AAA a year ago. He was in 32 games, had a 7-7 record, and Drabek, it's a pivotal spring for him. He's had 2 Tommy John surgeries, and right now he's out of options.
He's out of options, so he's got to make the team or be exposed to waivers. Now pitching out of the bullpen for the Blue Jays after those couple of Tommy John surgeries. So Drabek trying to make a impression here in the first game of spring training.
We're in the 6th inning, and we're pleased to be joined now by the Blue Jays starting catcher Russell Martin. And Russell, how does it feel to get back behind the plate for 5 innings first day out of the chute?
Feels good. Feels good to get out there. Been waiting a while to get this opportunity. First time in a Blue Jays uniform in a meaningful game, so it's fun.
Kind of interesting, too. It would come against your former team, the Pirates, who had a lot of great things to say about you. Talk about your time with Pittsburgh for those last 2 years.
Oh, Pittsburgh just had an awesome time over there. Good group of talent. Guys go to work every day. Great coaching staff. It just definitely feels like a unit over there. They have a family type atmosphere, and it was fun being a part of that team that got things turned around over there.
Russell, take us through the first inning with Aaron Sanchez. He seemed to be cruising through the first couple of batters. Got 2 strikes on Polanco, threw a curveball, looked like it might have been strike 3 out of the inning, and then 3 runs scored. Talk a little bit about that inning. Yeah,
I thought he made a good 0-2 pitch against Polanco there. But it's spring training for everybody out there, so everybody's definitely not in midseason form, and it goes with the umpires as well. But he's got a devastating curveball, so it's probably a tough first look for an umpire back there. But then he made some good pitches. We made an error behind him, and it's hard to get 4 or 5 outs in an inning. But it's good, man. He was out there. He was commanding his fastball for the most part. After the inning kind of got lengthy a little bit, started to leave the ball a bit more over the plate. But it was just nice to see him out there compete. I think the key for today was just his fastball command, to make sure that he was attacking with the fastball. And, as we go along, as we progress in spring, we'll start incorporating a little bit more of the other pitches. But I was pleased. Obviously, the result is not what he wanted. But I definitely enjoyed how the life I saw on the fastball and his composure out there.
Do you think the non-call affected him a little bit? I saw him back off the mound, pick up the rosin bag, fire it back down. And if it did, what are you going to say to him?
You know what? At that moment, I wasn't sure. I was just, getting ready for the next pitch at that moment. But I'm pretty sure he's made that pitch before and then gotten a call. But I don't know how much impact it had on him. I have to ask him when I get in the clubhouse. I don't mind guys getting, actually, first time around, if you get hit a little bit, next time you show up there, probably have a little edge about how you go about your business. And I'd rather have that happen now than during the season.
Elias Diaz, the pinch hitter, hits one deep to left field, and this ball is gone. Diaz just into the game off the bench for Clint Hurdle's Pirates, and he has hit the 3rd Pirate home run of the afternoon. This Drabek, after striking out first batter, gives up a 1-out home run. Russell, you obviously have a lot of work to do to catch up with all of these pitchers, and you implemented something I thought that was pretty interesting, kind of a catcher's debriefing after the day of working with the pitchers to kind of share the information. Take us through that process.
Yeah, that's just something that I learned when I was with the Yankees. When you're learning a new staff, you don't really get a chance to catch everybody in a short period of time. And when you get all the catchers together and you get all our minds together and we talk about what we've seen from each individual pitcher that day, it kind of gives you an idea of what to expect when you go out there. And, allows you to kind of prepare mentally, because you don't get a chance to catch everybody during the spring. And if you get a little feedback, it just, might help you out when you go out there. It's not like it's something brand new right when the game starts.
Russell, you've been to the postseason 7 times in your 9 big league seasons, and you hear the word talk about a lot, chemistry, being a clubhouse leader. What do those words mean to you, and how do you describe the impact of a clubhouse leader?
I think it's really just somebody that leads by example and just goes about his business the right way, shows up every day with a good attitude. I try and stay as positive as I can throughout the year. And, I play with the passion. I play with pride. I enjoy playing the game of baseball. And, I feel like that's the best thing I can do. I'm not really the most vocal guy on the planet, but I believe that if you lead by example, most guys learn by observing, and that's the way I learn, so I feel like that's the best way to go about it.
Russell, I saw you out after the workout the other day kicking a soccer ball around. What's up with that?
That's just something that I started last year. Normally I would do it before I work out, just a fun way to get loose. And yeah, it's just instead of going out there and running poles or whatnot to stay in shape, you can just kick the soccer ball around and stay fit in a fun way.
Russell, do you get an extra sense of pride for playing for the Blue Jays in your home country of Canada?
Right now, it's a good feeling. Not a lot of guys get an opportunity to play for a team who they cheered when they were kids, so definitely has a good feeling to put on the Blue Jay uniform. And I think there's a lot of Canadians in the house, and it definitely heard it when the anthem started earlier today.
There are a lot of Canadians in the house, and they will be all summer long. Russell, great to have you in a Blue Jays uniform. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
That's Russell Martin, a Blue Jays catcher, after a good day of work and his first day out. 5 innings of work, finished up with a single. Boy, what a presence he brings to this clubhouse. There's a little looper. That's going to drop in front of Chris Dickerson, who's come into the game in right field.
Well, Willie
Garcia with a base hit.
He talks about leadership and being, not a vocal guy, but just a guy who leads by example. And we've seen that already. The way he gets the catchers together. You talked about the meetings that they're starting to put together to go over all these young pitchers. Talked about the soccer regimen that they're doing after workouts. He brought out, it looked like about 20 bottles of water. And he and Deanna Navarro and Pilar and Goings, they were out in the outfield kicking it around and just pouring down sweat to get some extra work in at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's leadership.
It's a fun way to do it as well. And, everybody does it in a little different fashion. And you don't have to be a screamer. You don't have to throw things around in the clubhouse. You lead by example. And Barry Davis earlier in the broadcast alluded to the fact that Russell Martin picked up some things from Derek Jeter. And Martin was an already established big leaguer. He's an all-star and still learning about the game. So he understands you can never sit back. You can never feel like you've accomplished everything. There's always something to improve upon.
He had some good things to say about Aaron Sanchez. He thought his fastball command was pretty good, but then as the inning lingered and went a little bit longer, he lost that command and that control of it.
Ball on a strike to Brent Burrell, who spent some time with the Blue Jays. On the ground, Diaz flips to second for the force out. Excuse me, that is Brian Goins hits short. So Kyle Drabeck gives up a home run and nothing more.
Third base dugout this time. We're here with Ace and Dick.
The Premier League table. Find out as the Blues visit West Ham Wednesday on Sportsnet. And guys, if Russell Martin does not make the trip to Bradenton, he's going to be looking for a TV. He's a big soccer fan, as you guys discuss, and will probably want to watch this game.
I'm sure they will, Barry, and it is beautiful down here in Dunedin. The breeze has picked up a bit. Russell Martin's day is over. He is acknowledging his former Pirate teammates, you can bet. New pitcher for the Pirates is Rob Scahill. He's into the ball game to work the bottom of the 6th inning.
There are his numbers with Colorado last year in 12 games. 1-0 with a 480 earned run average. Good fastball, good two-seamer. He's going to get a lot of ground ball outs if he can keep it low in the strike zone.
We are in Dunedin, Florida, and we are pleased to be joined now by the former Blue Jay and into camp as a coach, Vernon Wells. Vernon, great to see you again. I was surprised when I saw you this morning.
Yeah, I snuck in here for a couple days and come see the guys and talk some baseball.
What's your assignment this camp?
You know what? Just obviously work with the outfielders, work with Pompey a little bit, talk to him. When you're that young and you get to the big leagues, I've been there. I understand what it's like, and there's just so much information to take in. But obviously, once the game starts, just go and play.
And obviously, you have to deal with disappointment. I can remember a manager sent you back to the minor leagues you weren't too happy with.
Who was that, Buck?
Yes. But those times are what kind of helped define my career. I think you have to go through those issues and go through those troubling times to make you the player that you want to be. And he's going to have some struggles, and it's just a matter how you respond to those.
What was that like for a young player? Tell the people at home what it's like for a young player to play on the big stage like this in the big leagues, and you have to deal with failing. It's a tough game. What kind of things did you learn that you can pass on to Dalton Pompey?
Well, I mean, we chose a sport that's based off of failure. I mean, so if you fail 7 out of 10 times, you're an all-star, which makes no sense in any other walk of life. So it's being able to understand what that's about, and the more you feed into the failure side of it, the more you're going to struggle. And as a young kid coming up, you have to be able to feel like you belong at this level. And really anything you do in life, try to tell kids all the time, there's a fine line between confidence and cockiness, and you kind of have to walk that line. And obviously you respect the game in the process, but you have to believe that you belong here, and it's the same game, just on a different level.
You have watched this team from the outside all winter long, rebuilding the roster. What's your impression of what you've seen from the Blue Jays?
Obviously some great moves. You bring in Donaldson, you bring in a Russell Martin, you bring in leadership guys that are going to lead by example, and say some words when they need to be spoken. But the way they're going to carry themselves is going to set an example for some of these younger kids that are here, and it should be some welcome additions. Obviously, the key to a successful season is staying healthy, and hopefully they can do that.
Vernon, you had a similar path to that of Dalton Pompey's, rising many levels through one season. What do you see in Dalton Pompey? What are some of the attributes he has that impresses you?
Well, he's athletic, and I think when you're athletic and you're playing this game, you can make some adjustments on the fly that some people can't. But at the same time, it's just going to take him playing games, and the more games you play, the more you get used to seeing what's going on, and you start to anticipate things before they even happen. So hopefully he's going to take the spring training as one to be a building block for the start of his career.
What's the biggest thing you're going to tell him as you get? How long are you going to be down in Florida? First of all,
I'll be here for a couple days, and we've been talking extensively already, and he's been asking a lot of questions. I think that's the biggest thing for a young kid coming in, is being open to just learning things. And I've been there. I've been through some of the best of times, been through some of the worst of times, and I understand what it takes to get through it. And he's going to be a kid that's going to be open and not think that he's got everything figured out at the age of 22, because it's just not going to be the case.
What's Vernon Wells' life like now without the daily rigors of baseball?
It's good. It's good. I get to coach my kids now and doing all the cooking at home, so my wife really misses me right now.
Vernon, great to see you. Always good to see that great smile. Nice to have you here in camp for a few days.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
You look good in blue again. You should have never left.
Oh, you see how my career turned out the last 3 years? Yeah, I shouldn't have left.
Vernon, all the best. Thanks, man.
All right, thanks, guys.
That's Vernon Wells back in camp for a few days, and good on the Blue Jays for having him back. Obviously, they've got a young center fielder. Vernon played that role many years ago.
He said so many interesting things about a young player coming to the big leagues for the first time, really your first big league spring training, your expectations, how to fail, things like that. What a smart idea by the Blue Jays, bringing him in here and sticking him around some of these young players.
That was Chris Dickerson for the Blue Jays, who flied out to left field. There's Jay Stenhouse and Vernon Wells down in the Blue Jays dugout. And Well, that's one of the beautiful aspects of spring training is we get those in-between inning interviews where you get a chance to catch up with current players, former players, just a little bit more insight into what's going on during the course of the game, something you can't afford to do during the regular season.
Jays are going to do that a couple of other times from what I understand, bring in some of the ex-players. I believe Scott Rowland is going to be in camp at some point to talk third base play.
Well, you think about going over to Yankee camp in Tampa, and you look around and you see Reggie Jackson and Mickey Rivers and Greg Nettles and Catfish Hunter. Well, not Catfish, of course, he's passed, but Goose Gossage. You see the old Yankees who come in there and, you know, they're just around to talk, and you know what, the players should make full use of their presence.
My first big league camp with the New York Yankees in 1981, that's exactly what happened. There was Mickey Mantle and Yogi Berra and Joe DiMaggio and Whitey Ford. And you walk around going like, wow, I am in the presence of greatness. I got to bring my game up just to be able to hang with these guys.
Devin Travis gets jammed and hits into the force out. The inning is over. Ryan Goins started things off with a single. Don't forget, we got a chance to see Miguel Castro, the 20-year-old flamethrower. He's going to pitch in this game at some point.
Take a look down on the first base dugout because
We are in Dunedin, Florida. Spring training has started once again. This is the 39th season. The Blue Jays have had spring training in Dunedin, Florida. It is a beautiful day, and Blue Jays are happy to get game one off and running to start their spring training. Pittsburgh leads at 8-4, and Pirates have hit 3 home runs here this afternoon. Blue Jays have managed 4 runs on 6 hits. A new pitcher for the Blue Jays is Wilton Lopez.
Another interesting case right here. Blue Jays signed him in December to try to add some depth to that bullpen. He has been in the big leagues. He has pitched in the big leagues before. This is what he did in AAA last year in 23 games, 1-2 with a .457 earned run average. Lopez pitched in the Colorado organization last year. He has also had some time with the Houston Astros. And Blue Jays think that this might be an outside guy who might come and steal one of those spots from the right side in that bullpen.
Lopez is from Nicaragua. He has pitched, as Pat mentioned, in the California system, Texas, Houston. He made it to the big leagues with the Astros in 2009. Pitched almost exclusively out of the bullpen, gets the ground ball, hit to Devin Travis at second. Chris Colabello is playing first base. Travis, the young second baseman, played in Double-A for the Tigers a year ago. He was acquired by the Blue Jays in a trade to St. Anthony, goes to Detroit. So he's here to make an impression on his new organization. He's a pleasant kid. He comes out of Florida State, had some great experience at the College World Series with the Florida State Seminoles. And he's going to get a lot of looks here this spring. This is Pedro Florimon, and Travis gets another opportunity here. Makes a nice play to throw out Forimon. Forimon took over at shortstop for Jung Ho Gung.
Devin Travis flashing some leather right there. He's got some good movement around second base. When we heard about the trade, the one thing we heard about, number one thing was his bat, but I've watched him the last couple of days around second base. He's got good instincts, good movement, good feet, and a very strong arm.
He hit .298 in AA Erie last year, had 20 doubles, 7 triples, and 10 home runs. He had quite a College World Series in 2012 with the Florida State Seminoles. He had .563. That's a good series. This is Keon Broxton, who's taken over in left field. This is his first at bat. Ball and a strike, 2 outs. This downstairs, if there's an unusual silence in the booth, Pat and I are both trying to catch up on our scorecards.
I'm running out of ink. I've got red, I've got yellow, I've got black, okay. I've got blue, and I'm running out of ink.
Lopez is the 6th Blue Jay pitcher to work here this afternoon. And there's an off-speed pitch in there for a strike, 2-2. Well, the Blue Jays went out and they picked up a lot of minor league free agents. They acquired a few pitchers on the waiver wire. They have pitchers in camp and trying to take a look at as many pitchers as possible, trying to come up with a bullpen. That's a check swing, and he goes around for strike 3. So good inning for Wilton Lopez. 3 up, 3 down with a strikeout. We move to the bottom of the 7th, 8-4 Pittsburgh. In spring training, and this was earlier about 10:15 this morning. That is Johan Santana doing some running, and he's got the baseballs in the air. That is designed to build up the strength of his shoulders, and he has had shoulder problems. He's worked with George Poulos and the training staff. Santana threw, played some catch. Nothing very strenuous, but just in an effort to build up that range of motion in the shoulder. And, of course, Johan Santana, a terrific pitcher. They're hopeful that one day he'll be able to get back to the stature he had early in his career. 139 wins for Santana and 78 losses.
Yeah, and no promises by either the Blue Jays or Santana. We'll just have to see how that unfolds. Brad Lincoln will now come into the ball game. He is the 6th pitcher for the Pirates this afternoon. There are his numbers with Philadelphia a couple of games last season. Brad Lincoln, an ex-Blue Jay.
He was with the Blue Jays in 2012, 2013. He was acquired in a trade from Pittsburgh at that point. Lincoln was originally drafted by the Pirates.
He's always had that big fastball, and he likes to go to it.
Josh Tolley gets his first at bat of the afternoon. He took over for Russell Martin after Martin caught the first 5 innings.
Now, we talked about Johan Santana. We just showed him there. What does he and Josh Tolley have in common?
Santana threw the only no-hitter in Mets franchise history, which is really interesting considering Kuzman and Nolan Ryan and Tom Seaver. And Josh Tolley was his catcher.
And he made sure everybody knew that when they signed Santana.
Josh is a terrific teammate. And here he slaps one past the third baseman in the left. Tolley, of course, is the catcher for R.A. Dickey in that knuckleball. And a big question this spring. Russell Martin has made it be known he wants to catch the knuckleballer.
That's a classic Josh Tolley at bat right there. Take what the pitcher gives you. Tries to slip that fastball by you on the outside corner. You just slap it right by the third baseman.
So the new batter is Caleb Guindle. Guindle took over in left field. Guindle from the Milwaukee Brewers. He's a guy that has spent parts of the last 2 seasons in Milwaukee. Never really got an extended opportunity. He's played a career-high 57 games in Milwaukee in 2013. Hit .242. As a minor leaguer, he's always hit well, a .285 career hitter. He is 26 years old. He's from Florida. Grew up in Pensacola, up in the Panhandle.
Just some more depth by the Blue Jays, putting in the Guindle into this organization. Probably will not make the big league club, so there's some depth down in Buffalo in the AAA.
He's basically a corner outfielder. Played in Nashville last year in AAA with the Brewers. Outside, Brad Lincoln. We mentioned he was with the Blue Jays.
He was also mentioned earlier in this broadcast about being part of a big league draft, first round, just a couple of years ago.
The 2008 draft. That was the draft that featured Pedro Alvarez as the number 2 overall pick in 2008. Full count, nobody out. Ball 4, up and away. First 2 reach here in the 7th. Derek Barton will step in. He singled and drove in a run as a pinch hitter back in the 5th inning. This will be his second at bat of the afternoon. It's interesting how some of these minor league free agents opted to come to the Blue Jays, as I think Blue Jays are starting to get the reputation of being a pretty good organization now.
Well, you have to build depth within your organization. We saw that in spades last year with the Blue Jays. So many injuries that you almost have to field 2 teams, one at the big league level and one in AAA, because guys get hurt so much. And it was like a shuffling of guys from that Buffalo roster all summer long.
Well, just to give you an idea, the Blue Jays had 5 different third basemen that started 11 or more games. And they just didn't have that consistency. Brett Laurie dealt with injuries, and now with Josh Donaldson penciled in to play third, you expect him to play 145, 150 games at third.
Yeah, but you have to, I think, if you're the general manager, you're putting the team together, you have to figure worst case scenario. All right, what happens if this guy goes down? Do I have adequate backups? What if I can't put together a bullpen, or if this guy's injured, or we need to make a trade or something like that? I think you have to prepare that way. All teams do that. That's why you see 67 guys in camp, 27 non-roster players for the Blue Jays in camp.
And the Blue Jays are well aware. You bring in the pitchers, and everybody knows they've got to rebuild the bullpen a bit. So why not give some of these guys an opportunity? The one thing that we have seen with the pitchers is a familiar theme of most of the pitchers that have come in have been strike throwers. Breaking ball into dirt. Martin's moving up, ball's into dirt, modeled, and now here comes Tolley, and he is going to be out at home plate. Well, they threw it around a little bit, but they nailed Josh Tolley at the plate. Diaz's throw, the catcher bounced into second base, and Lombardozzi stayed with it, made a strong throw to the plate.
Well, being down by 4 runs, you don't want to run into any outs. I think Josh was anticipating that ball going into center field when he was at third base. Diaz has a pretty strong arm behind the plate. You can see another ball in the dirt, blocked, keeps it in front of him. Barton takes off, and he whips that thing down there. Lombardozzi kicks it around a little bit, and that's where I think Josh was anticipating that ball going into center field, and it's an easy play at the plate.
So now there are 2 outs. Danny Valencia takes strike 3 called. Brad Lincoln drops the hook in there, and the Blue Jays have a promising start to the inning, but they leave a base runner. We'll head to the 8th. Miguel Castro, who is playing in his 4th professional season. He pitched last year in Vancouver, Lansing, and right here in Dunedin. And Pat, he has captured the imagination of a lot of people here in camp.
We started hearing about him last summer as he started moving up through the ranks of A-ball, through those three spots that you were just talking about. He's listed at 6'5", 190 pounds, just 20 years old. He turned 20 last December 20th. Big arm, and you can see from that windup, he's got that pitcher's build. He's long, he's lanky, he's loose. He's got that loose arm, long arm, big hands. And when you talk to some of the Blue Jay people, they're talking about him possibly being one of those kind of guys who comes very quickly through the farm system.
Yeah, he probably is going to start out right here in Dunedin, and he'll probably start, and that's what he's done throughout his career. He's made 30 career minor league starts and 39 overall appearances. And that's the one thing that he does. He throws it over. And he gets one pitch out as he gets Sellers to ground back to the mound.
Well, a lot of times when you see young players, young pitchers who throw as hard as Castro does, ball's all over the place. But he stays over the rubber very nicely. He stays compact in his delivery. He gets his arm up, and he pounds that strike zone.
Talking to the players, and Brett Cecil and I had a conversation about Castro. He said, you know, when you see young kids and they come in and throw hard, generally they're scattergun in their command, but not Castro. Very smooth delivery. He's around the plate.
He threw right around 80 innings last season and only had 30 walks and had just about a strikeout an inning.
Past Colabello into right field. Mel Rojas Jr. singles with one out. Rojas entered the game back in the 6th inning. Struck out against Kyle Drabek in his previous at-bat. Of course, for all you Montreal Expo fans, Mel Rojas, a familiar name. Is that the son of Mel Rojas? Elias Diaz, the catcher. We're in the 8th inning. Rojas at first base. There's a ground ball. Goins waits on it, takes the big hop. Driven Travis, what a pivot. But the throw is high. Rojas takes out Travis at second. He hung in there pretty good and got a lot on the throw, but it was high at first base and would have been in time had it been on the mark.
Blue Jays were doing some drills today, turning double plays with the second baseman, and Travis was right in the middle of that. He stayed right in there. He shows a very strong arm. That is very dangerous right there, where he planted that front foot. And that batter, the runner, goes right into him. When you plant that front throwing foot right there, you can slide in there and tear up your knee. That's why you're taught you throw the ball and get up in the air so there's a little give in your body.
2 outs now.
But he showed a strong arm today. I don't know if you had a chance to watch him in early morning workouts today.
Yeah, he's got a little more upside defensively than we were led to believe. Steve Lombardozzi, the Pirates' second baseman. Lombardozzi grounded out the first in his first at bat. This time he taps it to second, and the inning is over. Miguel Castro, his first inning of big league spring training. Not too bad. Pitchers today. Aaron Sanchez started the game, went an inning and a third. A little earlier, Barry Davis was down in the Blue Jays clubhouse interviewing Sanchez about his start today.
I want to go out there and compete and do well. I think that's every competitor wants to do that, but just today wasn't my day. But I can learn from that, and I will take that into my side, in a few days and get back out there in 5 days.
You came very close to getting that strike 3 call, and that probably would have got you out of the inning. Is that those things that you have to?
I mean, it's spring training for everybody. You can't go out there and rely on guys making plays and making calls. You got to make your pitches, and I didn't do that today.
A little bit of a wake-up call on that first batter for you.
A pretty interesting take.
Honestly, I didn't.
confident Aaron Sanchez, hey, you know, had a bad day. Wasn't my day today. And Donaldson made an error. He said, hey, it's spring training for everybody, and you got to give everybody some slack. He'll be back out there. And certainly he shouldn't put too much stock in this one outing that lasts just an inning and third today.
Well, I like to accentuate the positive a little bit more than the final numbers right there from Aaron Sanchez. I thought the ball came out of his hand very well. I thought he had life on his fastball. He had good movement on the ball. I thought he threw a couple of pretty good curveballs in that situation. But then as the innings lingered and his pitch count got up there, you could see he lost a little something. He's not in shape to go more than 2 innings right now. But I thought I liked what I saw from Sanchez. Josh makes that play. Donaldson at third base. He only gives up the 2 runs?
Yeah.
That's it.
Overall, it was a pretty good day. And you're right. You get out there and throw a few extra pitches than you plan on. Josh Wall is the new pitcher, and he delivers that first pitch as Colabello lines it into center, and the center fielder just flat out missed it. Mel Rojas Jr. looked like it hit him in the top of the shoulder. He was diving to his glove side, took a swipe at that ball, and it looked like it hit him right on the top of the left shoulder. Mel Rojas Jr., the center fielder, is down, and the right fielder comes over to help him up. Ball hit him, appeared to hit him on the top of the shoulder.
Catchable ball, Buck, right here. That ball was staying up for him. He takes a right read at it. It looked like it glanced off his glove and either hit him in the shoulder. You can see right there it stays up, hits him off the shoulder, and that's a play that a big leaguer would normally make.
Yeah, it sure is. I think more than anything, he's a little embarrassed that he missed it. So there's a pinch runner at second base. Mitch Ney, the young third base candidate, is at second running for Colabello. Ryan Goins singled his last time up. Goins certainly has the defensive skills to win the job defensively at second base, but it's a matter of hitting, and he's always hit in the minor leagues. He's had a career .280 average as a minor league hitter, but hasn't been able to get untracked in the big leagues.
Vernon Wells was talking about that when we were talking to him a couple of innings ago about young players feeling like they belong in the big leagues. I think once Ryan Goins feels like he belongs in the big leagues and he can handle big league pitching, he's going to be fine. Because you're absolutely right. Glove-wise, he can play big league shortstop or second base right now, today. But I think it's just a confidence thing, a thing where it says, you know what, I belong here. I can play here. I can hit here. Once he starts doing that and feeling that, he'll be a good big leaguer.
How does it impact this Blue Jays ball club is that they're working on another hitting coach? And they have gone through 4 hitting coaches over the last 5 years. It's been quite a transition.
2 hitting coaches this year.
Yeah.
Eric Owens also has come in as the second set of eyes. Brooke Jacoby is now the hitting coach. And I don't have a problem with that because hitting is really up to the individual. You might get more information from all these different hitting coaches, but you still, as a player, have to go out there and hit. They're not going to carry the bat out there for you and do it for you. I don't think that's going to be a big problem, having another hitting coach.
There's a line drive into center. That'll get down. Mitch Ney is being stopped at third base. Ryan Goins has his second hit of the afternoon.
See, the more he plays and the more chances he has to face big league pitching and the success he has, he's going to feel right at home, and he's going to be able to contribute. There's some talent there. There's some bat speed.
I think the one thing he has to understand is he doesn't need to hit home runs in this lineup. He just needs to get on base.
Yeah, just have good at-bats, and this is a good at-bat, climbing on top of that high fastball. Staying on top of it instead of popping it up, staying on top of it and hitting it right back through the middle.
Blue Jays have a lot of thunder in their lineup, and if Ryan Goins can put the bat on the ball, get on base, and have some productive outs, he's going to make a few tough decisions for this ball club. Ezequiel Carrera tries to check his swing and goes around too far.
Classic example right there of looking for the fastball and getting the breaking ball. Bad feeling right there where you're geared for that fastball and he throws you the breaking ball.
Carrera is 27 years old. He's from Venezuela. Another breaking ball. This one pulled foul. Carrera has played in the major leagues with the Indians, the Phillies, and the Tigers. His total major league experience, a total of 435 at bats.
He can run. He can play some center field, and he can run.
Here he strikes out at a high fastball wall. Gets the first out of his outing. So 1 out, runners at the corners. Chris Dickerson. Dickerson flied out in his only at bat. He came in defensively, taking over for Bautista in the 6th inning. Dickerson has been around a bit. He spent time last year with the Yankees and the Orioles. That's a good breaking ball. Whether it's a splitter or a slider, it's hard to tell, but a couple of hitters have taken some funky swings at it.
He's got a good fastball, Josh Wall. They claimed him off waivers from the Angels last May. And he can upper 90s fastball, but his best pitch is a hard curveball. And that's the half swings that we have seen from the Blue Jays right there.
Inside off the plate. Chris Dickerson started his career with the Reds, made it to the big leagues in 2008. Last year, he spent the season with the Cleveland Indians, played in 41 games with Cleveland, 13 with the Orioles, and parts of 2 seasons, 11 and 12 with the Yankees. Another pitch down and in. That's a hard breaking ball.
Gonna have to pick that one up and make sure he throws it for a strike. I don't think he's thrown it for a called strike yet. Gonna have to recognize it out of his hand.
One and two, 1 out. Lays off that pitch that time and didn't chase. It's even at 2 and 2. We're in the bottom of the 8th inning. The Pirates and the Blue Jays both using a lot of pitchers. First game for both ball clubs, so the pitchers are generally going an inning apiece. Casey Sadler started for the Pirates. He had 2 clean innings. Whoops, that's a do-over.
I think the catcher called timeout. Ryan Goins over at first base is thinking it might be a balk.
Yeah, and it looks at James Hoy, the home plate umpire. You're right. The catcher must have called timeout, but it looked odd in that the pitcher had began his delivery. He started his delivery, and then he stopped halfway through, and that's why Goins was surprised that it wasn't called a balk. James Hoy is behind the plate to say. In the dirt. That's a full count. It's an 8-4 Pirate lead. We're in the bottom of the 8th inning. Josh Wall is the 7th Pirate pitcher to pitch this afternoon. Blue Jays have also used 7.
Hasn't been easy. Both of these clubs have brought their hitters today. 20 hits and 12 runs between them.
Ball's in the dirt. That's ball 4. Dickerson will go to first. Goins at second. Now it's time for the play of the game. It's brought to you by Scott's Weed Be Gone. This spring, knock weeds out of your park with Scott's Weed Be Gone. Kills weeds, not lawns.
Well, one of the players that the Blue Jays are going to be watching very closely this spring is Dalton Pompey, and he has put on a show, I think, this afternoon. He has done it with his bats. He has stolen the base. He's done it with his legs, and there he does it with his glove. Playing some left field here, a couple of innings. Dalton Pompey showing some talent. Why the Blue Jays are so excited.
Pompey started the ball game in center field. Had a base hit in his first at bat. Scored a run. As Pat mentioned, he also had a stolen base. Devin Travis.
Come on, Dev.
He's getting his second at bat.
Boy, that was a professional at bat, wasn't it, by Chris Dickerson? After he waved at that one breaking ball, he said, okay, I'm not going to be swinging at that thing in the dirt, and he ended up working a walk to load him up.
Travis cues it off the end of the bat, and they're going to come home, and they get the lead runner. Mitch Ney is out on the force out. Nice play by Josh Wall. Saved himself a run as he gets the runner at home.
Boy, that certainly was. I thought for sure that he would just get the sure out over at first base. But it's tapped to his glove side. He's 6'6", weighs 220 pounds. He gets off that mound. Look at the athletic ability right there. The big pitcher bouncing off that mound, grabbing the ball, spinning around, and throwing a strike to home.
Yeah, you hear him take the sure out. He said, heck with that. I'm going to get my run. That's my run trying to score, and he gets him at the plate. So the bases remain loaded. Now there are 2 outs. Josh Tolley singled his last time up back in the 7th. Breaking ball missed down and in. .248 a year ago with 7 RBIs. We mentioned he's R.A. Dickey's catcher. He does a great job catching that knuckleball.
Yeah, but when you play once every 5 days, it's tough to get that stroke going.
When Tolley was with the Mets, not only did he catch Dickey, but he also played quite a bit, and that allowed him to hit a little bit more consistently. And I think you make a great point. When you know you're only going to play once every 5 days, boy, it's tough to keep any kind of stroke together. Tolley hit .268 in 2011 with the Mets. He played in 114 games. He got 340 at bats.
And unfortunately, when you're a designated catcher, the manager can't match you up against that day's starting pitcher. So if R.A. Dickey's matched up against David Price or John Lester, Josh Tolley gets to face those tough left-handers.
Yeah, Chris Sale. You're playing and catching Dickey, but David Price is pitching for the Tigers.
Oh, great. The good news is I get to play.
And Josh takes a lot of pride in what he's able to do with that knuckleball. 3-1, 2 outs. There's a little looper. It's got a chance to drop, and it will. Bones is in to score. Right behind him is Dickerson. Josh Tolley with a 2-for-2 afternoon. Picks up a couple of ribbies.
Ball wasn't hit that hard by Josh, but it found a hole, just like his last base hit, where he went the other way by the third baseman. This time he's just going to dunk it into center field for a couple of RBIs. Pulls the Blue Jays to within 2. 3-1. Goes down and gets that one and just pushes it out into the outfield. The tying run, Buck, is now at first base. They have a pinch runner and the go-ahead run. Strolled to the plate.
Dwight Smith Jr. has come off the bench to run for Josh Tolley. So he is at first base. Ray Searage, the pitching coach, has come out for a brief visit with his starter and his pitcher, Josh Wall. Tolley, nice day for Josh Tolley, coming off the bench, getting a couple of knocks and driving in a pair. I don't care where you are as a catcher, boy. You get a couple of hits and a couple of at-bats. That's a good day.
Your first job is to what? Handle the pitching staff, and he's done a good job of that, as the bullpen has used the pitcher every inning this game.
Caleb Guindo walked in his only plate appearance this afternoon. It's a 2-run ball game, 8-6 Pittsburgh. They scored 5 runs against Aaron Sanchez in an inning and a third. Sanchez charged with just 2 earned runs in that outing. Pittsburgh has hit 3 home runs here this afternoon. Pedro Alvarez, a 3-run homer in the first. Jung Ho Gung, solo shot in the third, and Elias Diaz, the catcher, had a home run, a solo homer in the 6th. Foul tip into the glove of the catcher. It's 1-2 to Gindel. Breaking ball outside, 2-2. The Blue Jays will play the Pirates down in Bradenton tomorrow. And then they'll have a night game on Thursday. That ball is up off the screen. That'll be one base for the two base runners. They'll be back here in Dunedin on Friday. Baltimore Orioles will be here for a 1:07 start. And we'll be back on television next Sunday. Again, the Pittsburgh Pirates right back here at Dunedin. So we'll get to see the Pirates for a second time next Sunday. We'll have a total of 8 games on Sportsnet from Dunedin. 2 more games from Montreal when the Blue Jays take on the Reds in Montreal, April 3rd and 4th.
Marcus Stroman goes tomorrow, doesn't he, down in Bradenton?
Marcus Stroman tomorrow. Daniel Norris on Thursday. Cut on and missed the strike 3, and the Blue Jays score a pair, but leave 2. Will go to the 9th. It's a 2-run Pirate lead.
Playing my song. I appreciate that.
And what you see right now in center field is new to baseball this year and being tried out during spring training. And that is a clock that will count down 2 minutes and 25 seconds between innings, all in a way of speeding up the game. Another thing they're trying is that they're going to have the batters keep 1 foot in the box at all time. Now, this is a rule that's already been around, but they're going to enforce it this year. Nobody on the Blue Jays seems to have an issue with the speed-up rules. However, Jose Bautista was unhappy with the fact that none of the players were actually asked for their input. Tony Clark was part of the process, but other than him, no current players were involved, and that's something he really wishes they could have had a say in. Guys, so far today, I do not think these speed-up rules are having any effect on today's game.
Good point, Barry. 14 runs, 21 hits. That's going to slow down anything. And we've had a lot of pitching changes. That will also add to the length of the game.
A lot of base on balls.
New pitcher for the Blue Jays is Gregory Infante, who is in to work the top of the 9th. His numbers a year ago between AA and AAA. Infante ended up in Buffalo, pitched in 5 games last year with the Jays.
He has spent some time with the White Sox and the Dodgers organization. He's another one of those arms that Alex Anthopoulos and his front office picked up to try and figure out that bullpen.
Infante had a great season at AA New Hampshire, where he had 22 saves and had a sterling 186 earned run average in 36 games in AA. And again, this is another example from a guy who has figured out later on in life to throw strikes. Infante is 27 years old. He's from Caracas, Venezuela.
Isn't that what P. Walker said to you about this bullpen? Kind of classifying everybody that they picked up over the wintertime, that they're all strike throwers.
Yeah, you just can't defend against the walk, and Blue Jays have improved their defense, and with that they're trying to improve their pitching staff by getting guys that'll throw strikes. This is popped up on the infield. Devin Travis, the second baseman, has it measured and makes the catch. One out here in the ninth. So Infante, who the Blue Jays signed in 2013 in the offseason, started originally with the White Sox, went over to the Dodgers and spent some time in the Dodgers organization. This is Brent Morrell. It came on as a pinch hitter in the sixth and hit into a fielder's choice. Baseball is underway throughout the Grapefruit League, and the Tigers and the Orioles hooked up today. Detroit scoring 15 runs, including a Yoenis Cespedes grand slam. So Cespedes off to a good start with his new team. Lots of other things going on around baseball. Of course, the Alex Rodriguez return, and the Yankees, I'm sure, are tired of that story right now. San Diego's a big team that everybody has their eye on. Lots of changes. They revamped their entire outfield with Upton, Will Myers, and Matt Kemp.
Lots of changes does not mean success. James Shields is also there. They've made a lot of changes. I think they're going to be pretty good. I don't know if they're going to be able to win that division. That is a tough division with San Francisco and the Los Angeles Dodgers in that division. That's going to be tough.
Boston Red Sox, of course, they've made a lot of additions. They spent about $265 million in the offseason, adding Pablo Sandoval and Hanley Ramirez.
Was that before or after Moncada?
That was including Moncada.
Jeez.
And they have Rusney Castillo, another Cuban, that they're not sure where they're going to play him. There goes the runner, and A.J. Jimenez behind the plate made a nice throw, and a good tag on the other end by Ryan Goins, who short-hopped it. Caught the short throw and put the quick tag on the base runner as he threw out the pinch runner.
Well, that is what A.J. Jimenez is known for right there. A quick release and a good arm. He had Tommy John surgery a couple of years ago. Throws a good release right there, and the value of Ryan Goins picking that short hop right there and applying the tag. Nice play on both ends.
This is Andrew Lambeau, who is playing at first base now. Lambeau grounded out in his only at bat.
You know, you were just talking about teams that have made a lot of changes and a lot of acquisitions in the offseason.
There's a base hit past the diving first baseman as Lambeau is headed for second. Chris Dickerson will dig it out and play it back in.
How about the Chicago White Sox and all the changes and moves that they made this offseason?
Well, first they got Jeff Smarja, and then they added former Blue Jay Melky Cabrera for the outfield, and they've done some nice things.
David Robertson for their bullpen. That was their biggest problem last year. I thought the White Sox bullpen, they gave up too many leads. They'd get so many well-pitched games from their starters. Jose Quintana, he was a captain no decision, wasn't he?
Yeah. Chris Sale, of course, is out with a foot injury. They don't anticipate it'll be a long-term issue. But he injured himself in an accident at home in Arizona. Pedro Florimon, formerly of the Minnesota Twins. Gustavo Nunez was the pinch runner that was thrown out, attempting to steal second. There's a little jam flare that Goins has to play on the hop, and it takes a little too much time. Goins just had to wait back on it. Wasn't hit that hard. But Florimon runs well and was able to leg it out and beat the throw at first.
That'll go as an infield hit for Florimon. You can see Goins had to wait back, but how about the transfer from the glove to the hand and then the release? And he almost gets Florimon over at first base.
Left fielder, number 79, Keon Broxton.
Made a 14th hit for the Pirates, as they've gotten hits from just about everybody this afternoon, and a variety, including 3 home runs. Keon Broxton entered the ballgame in left field. He struck out in his previous at bat.
So we play in the inter-squad game yesterday. There was maybe 3 hits the whole game. Maybe 1 run.
1 run, yeah.
In 7 innings. And we were talking after the game, so what did you think? Well, the pitchers are way ahead of the hitters. That changed in 24 hours, didn't it?
Every day is different down here in spring training. You just never know what you're going to get. Breaking ball bounced in the dirt. Ball on a strike, Gregory Infante, the 8th Blue Jay pitcher to work here this afternoon. Marco Estrada won a couple of innings in his outing. He, of course, is in the competition for the 5th spot in the rotation. Daniel Norris, Aaron Sanchez also involved in that competition. No throw is runner will move into second. Florimon picks up a stolen base. Two balls and a strike, 2 outs. Infante trying to close out the inning and keep the Blue Jays within 2. Good fastball.
Yeah, nothing wrong with his fastball. He's got some giddy up on that thing.
Full count. We're in the 9th inning. Pirates scored 3 in the first. Pedro Alvarez hit a opposite field 3-run, a home run with 2 outs in the first, and the Pirates were off and running. Jeff Decker drove in 2 with a double to center in the second. It made it 5-0. Here's the 3-2 pitch. Strike 3 call. Broxton caught looking. The Pirates strand a pair, and we'll go to the bottom of the 9th. The Jays are down by 2. Welcome back to Florida. It's been a beautiful afternoon. Fans have come out. Been a nice crowd on hand. The Pittsburgh Pirates are here. They lead at 8-6 as we head to the bottom of the ninth inning. And a lot of anticipation for this season as you look at Ryan Beckman coming on to pitch the ninth. But the Blue Jays, they've got a lot of things to answer and resolve here in spring training. Who's going to play second base? Who's going to be the fifth starter? And who's going to close out games out of that bullpen?
And I imagine it's going to take all of spring training. I don't think you can look at today's game and say, okay, Aaron Sanchez gave up 5 runs, 2 of them earned. Well, he's not going to be in the running for the fifth starter spot. He needs to go to the bullpen. I think it's going to take all of spring training and probably all into to the Montreal games when we go there before John Gibbons and his staff and the front office decide what they want to do with this club. So much can happen between now and those 30-plus games.
Yeah, there's liable to be players that aren't even here that have an impact on opening day for the Blue Jays. And, you know, there's been some talk of the Blue Jays getting a veteran closer, like a Jonathan Papelbon, maybe Rafael Soriano, who's still out there as a free agent. But I think you can't really make a judgment about this team until we get to the end of spring training. And even then, you know, how many guys were on the opening day roster with the Blue Jays that didn't even last a couple of weeks?
Well, we were talking about that last year. Remember the bullpen last year that left Dunedin? And we said, okay, this is going to be a strength of this team. And it was changed dramatically about a month into the season.
Yeah, it's just so difficult to predict, and that's why you have to be light on your feet and don't make decisions about players until you really have to.
And if you're the general manager, you keep the phone lines open, you make the calls, and you talk to general managers, and you talk to agents, and you keep those options out there as you start to form your club and see what you see down on the field and see how it all plays out. It's like putting a giant puzzle together.
It is a giant puzzle, that's for sure. And like I say, you can't really make a prediction about a ball club because you don't know what it's going to look like when the season starts. This is Matt Haig, who came into the game at third base, and he's a fellow that has played with the Pirates in the past. You see his numbers from a year ago. Haig was in Pittsburgh for 2 at-bats last year. He actually played with the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays picked him up on waivers August 18th. And he played in 13 games in Buffalo. He had 377 in just 53 at-bats. Look out. That hit him. Ooh. And you can see Haig didn't want to go to first base. He would just as soon have that opportunity to swing the bat. But he'll reach being hit by a pitch. So the Blue Jays get the first 2 on here in the bottom of the ninth, and now you're going to get your first look at Mitch Nay. First, let's take a look at this last pitch. Boy, if that did hit him, it just brushed his pant leg.
Yeah, well, I think it hit that thread that was sticking out right there on his pant leg right there. He wasn't going to go down to first base, but that gets the go-ahead run to the plate. And, hey, Mitch, do what you did yesterday in the inter-squad game. Let's walk this one off.
How about that? Mitch Nay drove in the only run in the inter-squad game with a home run to left field. He's an interesting young prospect. You can see he played in Lansing and had a good season. He's just 21 years old. He's from Tarzana, California. Last year was his 3rd professional season, although he did not play at all in 2012 because of an injury. He was a first-round pick in 2012. And he can swing. There's a base hit to left field. They're going to wave home. Barton, the ball is bobbled, and they will get it back in. But Mitch Nay, with his first hit back, drives in a run, and it's a 1-run game.
There you go. Brooke Jacoby, the new hitting coach for the Blue Jays, was talking about him, was raving about him, that he's got good mechanics at the plate. He doesn't get fooled, and he was raving about his second at-bat yesterday. His first at-bat, he homered. His second at-bat, he struck out. He was on a lot of breaking balls. He says with that swing, he's going to hit some breaking balls. Good piece of hitting right there to knock that run in. And now some decisions on the Blue Jays. How do you play this one? Do you let Ryan Goins go ahead and swing away? He's already had 2 hits today. Or do you play for the win and maybe bunt, play some small ball?
Well, you're trying to establish a winning mentality, and if that's the case, you ask him to bunt. Nobody out. Ryan Goins would be asked to bunt if this were a regular season game in this situation. So
why not?
Yeah.
Play it like a regular season game. The Pirates are expecting the bunt.
Squares to bunt, jabs at it. I mean, this is what he's going to have to do if he makes this ball club. He's going to be called upon to move the runners, get the sacrifice bunts down. So it's an opportunity to make an impression on the skipper. Hey, get the bunt down. Move the guys up.
Get the bat out in front. Watch how he just jabs at it. See the barrel of the bat, how it's behind home plate. You got to get it out in front of home plate.
0-1. 8-7 Pittsburgh. Again, he jabbed at it, and you're right on the money. That bat is back behind home plate. Get it out in front, and then the barrel of that bat is in fair territory, and if you hit it at all down on the ground, it's going to be successful.
Right here. Watch. Your natural reaction is going to pull back on the ball, so you really exaggerate and get it out in front of home plate. And you'd like to get that bat at that 45-degree angle so when you hit it squarely, it goes down into the ground.
Ryan is 2 for 2 in his 2 at-bats today. He's singled twice. But this might be the most important at-bat of his afternoon. And because of that, they ask him to square around with 2 strikes.
And you know John Gibbons and his staff is over there sitting there watching, hey, you know, we need to play at times fundamental baseball right here. This is a perfect example right here, a perfect time for him to open up the eyes of that manager.
Blue Jays manufactured a run in the 3rd inning when Pompey stole the base and scored on a ground ball out to the 3rd baseman. And there he strikes out. He reached for that pitch outside. But that might be better off than letting him hit. Possibility of hitting into a ground ball double play. There is still just 1 out. Ezekiel Carrera will step in. He struck out his last time up.
Center fielder number 3, Ezekiel Carrera.
I think that at bat speaks volumes about what John Gibbons expects from his team this spring.
Let's try and win the ball game and let's execute. You can see squares around and just again jabs at that ball, doesn't get that ball down, and it'll go as a strikeout, first out of the inning. Well, let's do some of the little things that help this ball club win.
Ezekiel Carrera, the center fielder, takes it inside. The Blue Jays last season, there are 25 players that played for the Blue Jays at one time or another last year that are no longer in the organization. They have turned over the culture dramatically. And I think John Gibbons and Alex Anthopoulos are anxious to bring a new mindset into this team. Bouncing ball over the mound. Lombardozzi to second for 1. Back to first, not in time. But now there are 2 outs. Ney moves to third.
Right fielder number 33, Chris Dickerson.
Had Matt Haig at third. And they came into on the force out. He was out on the force out. So Haig is at third base. He represents the tying run. Chris Dickerson struck out his last time up. Blue Jays trying to tie it here with 2 outs in the 9th.
Carrera can run. Do you try and let him steal, get himself into scoring position?
Could win it if he does. Not going. There's a strike to Dickerson.
He didn't think so on that one. He thought that ball was down. He had a good at bat his last time up. Fell behind wall and then eventually walked and scored.
Guerrero has 273 minor league stolen bases. 0-1 to Chris Dickerson. Outside, ball and a strike. Blue Jays will travel to McKechnie Field in Bradenton tomorrow to take on the same Pirates. And then John Gibbons and the Blue Jays will play a night game on Thursday night down in Sarasota against the Orioles. It's awful early for a night game. One, he lays off. It's outside.
Yeah, players that get used to waking up so early, coming to the ballpark. Now you got to play a night game? No thanks. Too early.
It's got a chance to be a little cool as well. Wait until the end of March, and it's going to warm up, obviously. 2 balls and a strike. Now it's 3-1. Devin Travis is on deck, the young second baseman.
3-1. You see Louis Rivera going through the signs over there at third base. Maybe you start the runner here, 3-1. Hope that Dickerson gets a pitch to hit and drives the ball into the outfield. Get a little running start over there from Carrera. Maybe you win the ball game with a double.
Not running. Ball forward. Bases are loaded. Winning runs in scoring position. And how about this? Devin Travis, the rookie second baseman, has a chance to win the ball game here with a base hit.
You got to tell the story about the first time we saw Travis a couple of days ago when you called his first major league hit in our thing. We got a couple of seconds here.
We were doing some promotional work for the Blue Jays for in-season promos, and Pat and I were on stage, and they wanted me to call a play while Pat's in the background analyzing the play, and we were acting it out. And in the corner of my eye, I caught Devin Travis coming into the tent where he was going to be next, and just popped into my mind. I said, now batting, Devin Travis. He's facing Roger Clemens of all people.
And he got a base hit.
He got a base hit. He gets a double. It's his first big league double. He had a big smile on his face when we came off the stage. But he's a nice young man, just 24 years old. He grew up in Florida, and now he's got a chance to win the ball game first of the spring.
He's going to make you look like a prophet. All right?
Bases are loaded. Blue Jays are down 8-7. There's a high strike in there. Ryan Beckman trying to close it out. He's created a tough situation for himself here in the ninth. Strike 2. Travis saw that pitch all the way. He just thought it was upstairs, but hey, it's the ninth inning of the first spring training game. You got to be thinking about swinging the bat.
Yeah. He's got a compact swing. He just didn't like that one.
Way outside, 1-2.
This is the difficulty of spring training. I mean, the Blue Jays don't play the Pirates. You're facing pitchers you have no history on or no idea what they throw, what the breaking ball looks like. In these situations, runners on base, you'd like to have a little history, have a little idea of how he's going to pitch you. Now you got to battle. You're behind 0-2.
That ball is chopped. It's going to be a tough play for Florimon. He hangs in there and makes the play, and the ball game is over. Pedro Florimon handled that chopper very efficiently. It ends the ball game, and the Pirates win 8-7. Your impressions of Game 1, Pat Tabler?
Well, I think it was each inning it was a different pitcher, so the Blue Jays got what they were looking for. They were getting a lot of work. They used 8 pitchers this afternoon. They swung the bats really well. They got 2 at-bats by their starters. They played 5 innings. Now they get a couple of days off. I think John Gibbons should accentuate on the positive of what he saw today. His pitchers got some work. There was a tough situation, a good close ball game. definitely have to go back to the drawing board and keep working at it, but it's a good first day for the Blue Jays.
Kevin Pillar hits the first Blue Jays home run of the spring. Stay tuned. MLB Top 100 coming right up. We'll see you Sunday afternoon right here from Dunedin. Thanks for watching. Stay warm. See you Sunday.